across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good evening and welcome to the Political Asylum right here on Talk. She was one of the courageous nurses who stood up for women's rights and launched legal action against the NHS for making them share their famous female changing rooms with a biological man. Unlike her fellow campaigners, she was not named because her reasons for wanting a safe space at the hospital where she works go back to her traumatic childhood, during which she was sexually abused by her evil father. When she saw an obvious man semi-dressed in the room reserved for real women, she froze in terror. Worse still, later, as a patient at the same hospital, she discovered to her dismay that the nurse assigned to her intimate surgery was the bloke in a dress who invaded the female changing room. When she objected, officials at the Darlington Memorial Hospital told her she'd have to lump it because they didn't want to hurt his feelings. Tonight, brave nurse Karen Danson is waiving her anonymity to tell her shock story to me. A story that reveals that in the depths of its crazed wokery, the NHS has lost all sense of human decency. Karen joins me in an hour's time at 8 o'clock. Let me know what you think. 03444991000. It is Monday, the 12th of May. Here's what's coming up. In other news, just as Isabel Oakeshott and I told you last week, at least one of the Iranian terror suspects arrested on suspicion of plotting to attack the Israeli embassy is indeed an asylum seeker, hatching his alleged plan to cause carnage at the taxpayer-funded Migrant's house in Rochdale, where he was living at our expense. He was plotting, allegedly, an attack on the Israeli embassy. Where did he hatch this plot? At the Migrant's house we were paying for. He, in all probability, arrived here illegally on a boat to be embraced into the warm welcome of the British asylum system. How many more of these people that we let in without no questions asked wish us harm? How many more of them are potential terrorists? 03444991000. Why won't Two-Tier tell us whether the rest of those arrested in this alleged plot arrived here illegally too? Another Southport-style cover-up as the government tries to steer us away from the terrifying truth. All of these undocumented illegal foreigners that we just let in, we know nothing about. How many more of the 175,000 asylum seekers around the country are secret terrorists? Again, who wish us harm. 0344 499 1000. Also tonight, Keir's migrant crisis crackdown. The PM says he's getting tough to avoid this island becoming, and I quote, a nation of strangers. But no cap on numbers, no deterrence, no leaving the ECHR, no plan to stop the boats, therefore no chance of even denting the ongoing cross-channel invasion. Oh, and there's talk of a record day unfolding, a record day today of unlawful arrivals. We are hearing that today's towering tally is 600 and counting. By 1 p.m. today, apparently it was already nearing 500. Are we on for a record day? I believe the record was just over 700. Could we top that today? So does this prove that Keir and Cooper are just tinkering around the edges? Aren't Starmer's crackdown announcements also an inherent admission that their smash the gangs strategy has been a disastrous failure? Why would they need this crackdown if they'd smash the gangs? Been talking to us ever since July the 1st. Smash the gangs! We're going to stop them, solve the migrant crisis. Smash the gangs! Today he has to launch a totally different kind of crackdown. So he spent £200 million smashing the gangs and has smashed no gangs whatsoever. This is, folks, absolutely pathetic, isn't it? 0344 499 1000. Plus, find out all about big spending speaker Sir Lindsay Long-Haul Hoyle's hundreds of lavish gifts. Apart from his luxury globe-trotting at taxpayers' expense, the old socialist MP has accepted and kept over 300 presents in the past 4 years. Stand by for the opulent details. After, he admitted spending about 300 grand jet-setting around the world, staying in expensive hotels, single trips costing us like £35,000, staying at 900 quid a night hotels, spending thousands on expensive chauffeurs to ferry him around. When he went to Montserrat in the Caribbean, he even hired a private jet. So all of this, now we learn he just accepts these gifts. 300 in the past 4 years. Work out how many that is a week. Does all this seem right to you? 0344 499 1000. And more madness on the woke police front as a 76-year-old former Kent copper is raided by current Kent cops for a tweet about Palestine, handcuffed in his own home and accused of having a house full of, and I quote, Brexity things. That's what the coppers relayed back to their bosses. This house is full of Brexity things, which is against the law. Why, precisely? Please explain, Kent Police. Why is it against the law to have Brexity things in your house? The guy whose home was raided said he's not an extremist, happened to have a couple of books by Douglas Murray. Is that a crime? It is, according to the Kent Police, apparently. 0344 499 1000. When will this Stasi-like nonsense on the part of our Rozzers stop? 0344 499 1000. And finally, the latest on Donald Trump's free plane from Qatar. He wants to accept a new Air Force One, gold-plated inside. He loves a bit of gold, old Don. He wants to accept it, says the Democrats are losers for objecting to this free gift that will save American taxpayers loads of money. But I don't know, does he really want to get into bed with, jihadis in suits? I don't know, jihadis in sports washing suits. Does he really want to do that? I mean, I'm all for Donald Trump, but I think this might be a step too far. What do you think? 0344 499 1000. And also, Kinsey Schofield's all set to tell us what's happening on Planet Harry and Meghan. There's a whole lot, as usual. All that and so much more. So don't go anywhere. Stick with me right here, right now, on Talk, the home of free speech and common sense. Let's spend Monday night together. And in a change of plan, we're going to start the week excellently in the brilliant company of Talk's international editor, Isabel Oakeshott. And I'll tell you why. Because I believe we ought to be, Isabel and I ought to be blowing our own trumpet. Isabel, explain why. You and I, or you in particular, well, at the start of last week, this was a week ago, we asked the question. These, I think it was about 8 in the end, Iranian nationals arrested around the country in dramatic police raids for an alleged plot to attack the Israeli embassy in London, to cause carnage in London. We asked, where did they come from? Are they illegal migrants? Are they asylum seekers? And why won't the government tell us? And we both quite rightly, I believe, said, look, don't tell us this could affect the police investigation, because knowing how they got into this country can't possibly affect the police investigation. We just want to know, were these people more of these undocumented foreigners that arrive in this country that we know absolutely nothing about? Well, we found out about one of them. He is a terrorist, or an alleged terrorist, plotting harm to this country, to the Israeli embassy in London. I wonder how many more of those arrested and still detained are asylum seekers or illegal migrants. And another question I think we have to ask is, what is it now? 1 week and 2 days, 9 days after they were arrested, why no charges yet. But the main point is, we sold it, we called it. We said, I bet these people are asylum seekers. One of them is. My guess, the rest of them are too. Your thoughts, Isabel?
Well, I've been pushing for the government to reveal the immigration status of these terror suspects since the time it happened. And it can't prejudice anything because, weirdly, none of them have been charged yet. And so there's no trial to prejudice. And there's been no release of any names. So it's not like we can libel anybody. We've no idea who these people are, which is probably exactly what happened to the authorities when they arrested them. They didn't know who they were either when they allowed them into this country. And I've just suspected from day one that probably all of them are refugees, meaning that they came here as asylum seekers and have been granted the leave to remain, or are asylum seekers seeking refugee status, allowing them to remain in the UK. That was very much my hunch. And a number of politicians, we played the clips last week on our show, on your show, Kev, asked the question of the relevant minister, the Labour minister in the House of Commons last week, please tell us the immigration status of these characters. And of course, answer came there, none. The usual excuses trotted out, hiding behind process and ongoing investigations and so on, which only increased my suspicion that there was something to cover up here. And sure enough, a few days later, it emerges that at least one of them, the one that we have that dramatic footage of, being hauled off by counter-terror police from an apartment in Rochdale, that person is an asylum seeker or a refugee who has basically been living at taxpayers' expense.
In this Rochdale house, which is a migrant's house, so we've been paying for his accommodation. He's clearly an asylum seeker, doubtless arrived here on an illegal boat, but we have this system where as long as they say, can I have some asylum, please, we immediately go, oh, they're no longer illegal. Well, they are, actually. That is just for our convenience because we have a ridiculous system. So this guy, my bet, arrived on a boat. We know he's an asylum seeker, so another word for most of our asylum seekers is illegal migrant. A migrant, a foreigner, an undocumented foreigner who arrived here illegally on an illegal boat. So he was one of those. We need to know about the rest of them, but the point is, Isabel, this of course cuts right to the heart of why the people of this long-suffering country are so concerned about the migrant crisis. Of course, we don't want to keep letting in hundreds of thousands of people, millions of people. We can't fit any more people into this overcrowded small island. But worse than that is they're undocumented. We know nothing about them. And guess what? One of them turns out to be an alleged terrorist. Never mind these people, the 7 or 8 who were arrested last Saturday. We'll find out about them in due course. But how many more of the 170,000 or so asylum seekers dotted around the country are terrorists? How many of these people wish us harm? How many of them came here for truly nefarious purposes to cause mayhem in this country? That's the question, isn't it?
We're making life far too easy for our enemies here. You know, it's so simple for the Iranian state, which is an enemy of the UK. This is a rogue state, a pariah state, a hostile state to the UK. If the Iranian state wants to do something bad to Britain, it's really not difficult, is it? They just pop a few operatives in a dinghy to cross the channel, whereupon we welcome them with open arms, put them in a migrant hotel for a bit, where they're free to just kind of abscond. It's not like anybody's detained in a migrant hotel. And then later on, we give them an apartment, a house from which they can plot whatever it is they plot. I mean, this is complete insanity. It's obviously insanity. And yet we carry on, our leaders carry on allowing it to happen. Keir Starmer today, once again, referencing smashing the gangs. Although I don't know if you noticed, Kev, today, you know, you'd have thought for someone who'd said it that many times, he would be able to say it properly. But today he said something like "smash the gungs" or something like
he's got
that.
he's got form with this. As soon as he sets out on his favourite cliche, smash the gangs. When he gets the gangs, he always he seems to sort of like trip up and call it guns. He keeps saying, smash the guns, get gangs, smash the guns, get gangs. It's almost as bad as confusing hostages with sausages, isn't it? I mean, he's got such problems in that area. But listen, here's the point with this ongoing invasion of undocumented foreigners that we know nothing about. This is the heinous crime that various governments dating back 15 years or so have been imposing on this country, on the population of this country. Look, the primary function of a government is to keep its citizens safe. That, beyond anything else, is the main function of a government. You must keep your citizens safe. By letting in people they know, hundreds of thousands of people they know nothing about, they're not keeping us safe, are they? This government, to be fair, along with all the Tory governments, along with Cameron, May, Johnson, Sunak, they've all been putting us in danger. What on earth is going through their heads?
I mean, the wrong things are going through their heads, which is, oh, it's all too difficult, rather than how can we be creative? How can we test the law, the international law, whatever it is, whatever the constraints are that we're being told by eminent lawyers, make it impossible to do the obvious thing, which is to turn back the boats. Let's test it. Let's give it a go, shall we? Or if we're not going to do that, we'll come up with another creative solution. And instead they wring their hands and just say it's all too difficult, and on we go. And none of the announcements today from Keir Starmer address the small boats crisis. Whatever he thinks he's doing to smash the gangs isn't working, demonstrably so. And unless he sorts this out, he is going to pay an unbelievable political price. It doesn't matter how much he manages to curb legal migration, which is what today's announcement was all about. And by the way, I don't think he's going to be successful in that either. But if he doesn't stop the boats, then it's over for him, I think.
Yeah, what we got today was a government in utter panic over Reform UK, over their stunning annihilation of Labour in the local election and the by-election sort of week before last, at the end of the week before last. They're in a blind panic about it. And of course, Reform UK's foundation stone is we will solve the migrant crisis. Now, what we got now today from this pathetic Prime Minister of ours and his equally useless Home Secretary was just a load of minor tinkering around the edges. This government and Starmer is addicted to the cheap headline. I'll get tough on migrant crisis, I'll smash the gangs, OK, you get a headline for one day and then the people say, well, where are the results? When we come back after this break, Isabel, we'll talk about some of those results because by coincidence, literally by pure coincidence, today is, we hear, shaping up to be the biggest migrant invasion of the year. We may be into the high 700s here. Massive amount coming across today. 232 came across yesterday, 58 on Saturday. So they're coming in thick and fast. The invasion continues apace. We'll talk about that when we come back.
Nigel realises he don't want career politicians in his party. He doesn't want these waste of time, people that have just got no career or no business mind behind. He wants real people that know what they're talking about in business, and obviously someone that can get behind them on apprenticeships. I mean, apprentices are the future, James.
What really is at the back of the minds of some of these lefty layabouts is if you do a job with your hands, then you are working and in some way perhaps more important, but they don't mean it.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. I'm still with Talk's international editor Isabel Oakeshott. Isabel, this morning, of course, Keir Starmer launched his massive migrant crisis crackdown, which frankly is just a load of shameless performative headline hunting. Nothing in it amounts to a hill of beans, to be honest with you. It is tinkering around the edges, but let's have a look at the not-so-great man addressing the media.
Today we publish a white paper on immigration, a strategy absolutely central to my plan for change that will finally take back control of our borders and close the book on a squalid chapter for our politics, our economy and our country. Now, make no mistake, this plan means migration will fall. That's a promise. But I want to be very clear on this. If we do need to take further steps, if we do need to do more to release pressure on housing and our public services, then mark my words, we will.
Also, Isabel, in this confrontation, this encounter with the national press at Downing Street today, Starmer denied that this initiative had anything to do with Reform UK's success at the local elections and at the Runcorn by-election. I mean, he really should grow up in that respect. Even a little kid is not going to believe that barefaced lie, are they?
He's just so bad, isn't he?
Yes, it's pathetic.
Just mark my words, we will do more. I mean, this is a white paper, so it's going to take quite a long time and a lot of toing and froing for that to become law. I mean, months and months and months and months for it to become law. And its overarching objective is simply vaguely to bring migration down. That's it. It's nothing stronger than that. There's no commitments. There's no kind of specific ambition set. Nothing that we can measure him on by his own utterances. You know, he's not prepared to say, I will bring this down to 100,000 a year or 200,000 a year. No, because he basically probably knows that the measures he's announcing are going to do nothing of the kind. And I just think it's way too little too late. And the spectacle this evening of a bunch of lefties frothing at the mouth over it is all too convenient for Downing Street, I can't help thinking. It wouldn't surprise me at all if that reaction from the left has been orchestrated by Number 10 to make it look as if they're doing something really tough, to make it look as if they're prepared to take the fight against the left wing of their party. And actually, he's really not saying anything that should upset the left at all, because it's not going to count for anything.
Exactly right. And I take your point. It's an interesting theory, but I think it's too clever for a dim old Keir Starmer. He's not clever enough for that. But you may be right. I mean, here's the thing. He says, I'm not even thinking about Nigel Farage, and then goes, we're going to take back control. He nicks Nigel Farage's Brexit slogan. I hate that cliche, but Nigel Farage is living rent-free in Keir Starmer's head 100%. It is an obsession with this guy. He admitted at the weekend, by the way, that the next election won't be between Labour and the Tories. It will be between Labour and Reform UK. So the dial is significantly changing. But let's have a look at how he's going to take back control. He says this plan means migration will fall. No, it doesn't. That's a promise. We will create an immigration system that is controlled, selective and fair. We don't really want that, mate. We want you to stop immigration. We've had enough of all that. So, but here's the thing. His big announcement is law-breaking asylum seekers. From now on, big deal. You don't have to go to jail to be at risk of deportation. In the past, absurdly, asylum seekers could break the law to their heart's content, do what the hell they liked, as long as they didn't go to jail. And then their asylum status would never be challenged. Then they could go to jail. Quite often and still not be deported, which was ridiculous. Even paedophiles and rapists, people like that, were not being deported after their jail sentences. So the system was bizarre in its leniency. But here's the thing. They've changed it now. Law-breaking asylum seekers no longer have to wait until they're in jail to endure the outside possibility of being deported. Now, Keir triumphantly announced, they can be deported for any crime, except for the crime of illegally breaking into Britain. If you're not going to deport people for that, if you're not going to prosecute people for illegally breaking into this country, every other measure you announce is meaningless, right?
Completely. What he should have stood up today and said is, I am aiming for net zero immigration. I am aiming for no extra people at all. Every year, lots of people leave the UK, and frankly, more than ever at the moment, thanks to his regime. So that allows still some to come in, the type of people that we want and need, very bright and highly qualified people that are going to be net contributors. And that should be quite enough. But if he'd said that, it would have absolutely been game-changing for him and his party. So why won't he say it? Because he knows he can't deliver it, and he knows his heart isn't in it, basically. This is a guy who openly campaigned to maintain freedom of movement, who has evangelized about the benefits of free movement of people. And, are we really to believe that he's changed his mind so dramatically?
Yeah, it's a very foolish thing for him to do. Don't panic in politics. It always ends badly. Here he is blatantly panicking because of Reform UK. Migrant crackdown. It's not a crackdown. There's nothing to it. A load of old vague nonsense about you won't be able to stay unless you can speak English properly. A lot of commentators, including me, saying, well, I can't speak English properly, and never mind the migrants. So that's nonsense. Who's going to test that? Are we really going to have people going around the country? Now, you've been here 4 months. Let's have a listen to your English. That's not going to happen, is it? That is absolute rubbish. Also, they're saying, oh, well, if you want to be a carer from now on, you've got to have a university degree. I think that's just obstructive and stupid. It's just tinkering around the edges. Now, let's talk about what isn't in his new initiative, what he didn't announce today, and that's this. No cap on migrant numbers. No deterrence, no leaving the European Convention on Human Rights, and no plan to stop the boats. Therefore, no chance of remotely succeeding, right?
Absolutely right. He had that moment where he was asked, are you going to leave the ECHR? And the answer was no. And he came up with some nonsense about how if we left the ECHR, then we wouldn't be able to do any bilateral agreements with anyone, and we'd be kind of effectively outcasts internationally and so on. I mean, I'm more than happy to test that. You know, this is a national security emergency. And if it means that, you know, our lovely European neighbours, friends and neighbours, don't want to do any business with us for a while, well, fine. You know, I think we'll potter along on our own without this invasion day in, day out, and feel a lot the better for it.
Last couple of points. I mean, you know, if people, I can see that my audience have been analysing this all day, and they've come down on the side of nothing to see here. This was a load of headline hunting nonsense. It seriously was. He refused. We're just talking about legal migration, immigration, which is a massive problem. We've been letting in the best part of 1 million every year with the new Indian trade deal, which will allow Indian workers to come and work here without paying national insurance. That number's going to go up significantly, but we've been letting in about 1 million a year, which is ridiculous. This country, 79 million people in this country already. It is full. We cannot handle any more. But Starmer said, we're going to bring down legal immigration, but refuses to say if it will ever fall below 500,000, as if to say we're going to get legal migration down to 500,000 and we're all going to go, that's brilliant, that's astronomical.
It is absolutely astronomical, that figure. I mean, on no planet is that an acceptable, realistic, sustainable, reasonable figure for the UK, because we simply don't have the infrastructure. Now, there are countries that have a plan to expand. They have a vision. They've got a whole system set up for the planned expansion of their area, and they plan the schools, and they plan the roads, and they plan the hospitals and all of that, and they increase their populations incrementally according to the infrastructure that they're creating at the same time. And crucially, housing. I mean, where are these people going to go? Angela Rayner's basically as good as admitted she can't possibly create the, 1.5 million homes at She wants
Angela now, because she's into net zero as well, she wants to put solar panels on the roofs of the 1.5 million houses she will not build.
I mean, maybe she's only just realising that councils up and down Britain are still in the dark ages when it comes to planning applications and consents. It takes years to get a handful of houses across the line in most areas. So this isn't happening. So where are these 500,000 people going to go? And that's just the legal people, never mind the however many has arrived today, 600, 700.
Well, we don't know yet, but we were hearing it's over 600 already.
That's probably 2 more migrant hotels that are needed, or another 250 private houses. It's mad.
Bear in mind that each one of those 600, 650, 700 or however many it was that came over today will cost all of us £40,000 a year each. Each one of them will cost us £40,000. So today, millions worth came over. So good, isn't it? But we've got to move on, Isabel, but I've got to catch you on one last point to do with Starmer's initiative. I caught some of the press conference, and I don't know, I might be being unfair on the political press lobby that were interrogating our Prime Minister with their usual fervour, but I didn't hear anyone saying, isn't your new crackdown initiative an inherent admission that your smash the gang strategy has not worked? You wouldn't need this initiative if they'd smashed the gangs, wouldn't you?
Well, he would have said, no, well, this is about legal migration, is what his answer would be to that, because he's got no answer on the smashing the gangs. It hasn't worked, but he continues to say it, hoping that somehow we'll believe it.
Honestly, it's pathetic. Not a single gang smashed. They've given the Border Security Command something like 275 million quid for state-of-the-art, cutting-edge, high-tech equipment to catch the gangs. Gangs, they have caught none. Not a single one. Nada. Zero. Nothing. It's pathetic. It is so pathetic. Let me know what you think, folks. 03444 99 1000. Has our Prime Minister lost total control of the migrant crisis? 03444 499 1000. When we come back, old Sir Lindsay Hoyle, our jet-setting Speaker of the House, well, it turns out he's a really enthusiastic receiver of gifts as well. Find out all about that after this break.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. I'm still with Talk's international editor, Isabel Oakeshott. Well, Isabel, our friend Lindsay Hoyle is in the news again. We know that over the past 3 years he's been on countless foreign jet-setting luxury trips around the world at our expense. He says it's to foster relations with foreign countries and to tell them how wrong Russia was to invade Ukraine. I'm not sure what that has got to do with the Speaker, but there you are. He spent about £300,000 over the last 3 years going on these luxury trips, often with members of staff staying in very expensive hotels, 900 quid a night, spending 400 quid on a meal, thousands of pounds on chauffeur-driven limousines. When he was in the Caribbean at Montserrat, he even chartered a private jet. No expense spared for our big spending Speaker. Spent something like £7 million improving his palatial apartment at the Palace of Westminster at the House of Commons, said to have the best view in London all the way down the River Thames. 36,000 on a portrait of him to be hung in the corridors of Westminster Power. Now we learn that apart from travelling around and doing up his own place at great expense, he's an enthusiastic acceptor of lavish gifts. This old socialist scrounger has kept almost 300 presents over the past 4 years, including dozens of bottles of alcohol, hampers, ties, cufflinks and chocolates. The Labour MP for Chorley has hoovered up a large volume of gifts from foreign dignitaries, ambassadors and private companies, and kept hundreds of them rather than donating them to Speaker's House or Parliament. It's extraordinary, isn't it, this guy? I mean, what else?
Yeah. I mean, that is a lot of gifts, isn't it? I'm trying to get my head around just what a haul that is. It's a mountain of gifts. And I think under the parliamentary rules, none of them can be worth individually more than £300.
That's right. And I should stress, he hasn't broken those rules. He has declared all of these gifts, but they've been coming at him thick and fast. And he always keeps them himself. There's a tradition here. I guess I should read his statement. Spokesman for the Speaker's office said, as is common practice across the world, the Speaker gives and receives gifts when hosting dignitaries as a token of friendship and relationship building between nations and parliaments. All items are declared proactively, regardless of the £300 threshold applied by the MP's Register of Interests to ensure transparency and to avoid conflicts of interest. I'm afraid this goes on. In consultation with parliamentary officials, a decision is made as to whether a gift would make a meaningful addition to the Speaker's House historic collection and if it should go on display. If the item does not meet those criteria, for example, perishable goods, it is either retained personally by the Speaker or his office. As part of his welcome to visiting dignitaries and to cement friendships, many of the gifted ties and cufflinks are worn by the Speaker, and decorative heritage items relating to that country are put on display. You know, as I say, I don't know. This all seems wrong to me, and I think it must seem wrong to a lot of our audience. Doesn't it? You know, this guy going on these lavish trips left, right and centre, taking his staff, taking his wife. I think he got the money back for the wife, to be fair, paid for her himself, but taking his staff all around the world to these very expensive places, staying in flash hotels. Now we hear he's receiving gifts left, right and centre. And this made me laugh. The suggestion was, well, he doesn't keep it all himself. So last Christmas, to prove that he just spreads it around, he received hampers from the countries of Bahrain and Qatar, plus one from Anguilla, containing champagne, 2 bottles of wine and foodstuffs. But to prove what a generous man he is, Lindsay passed on the freebies from the North Macedonian ambassador to his staff. Listen to this is funny. They got a couple of packets of herbal tea and some red pepper sauce. He kept the smidgen gin and the expensive wine.
Brilliant.
This guy's out of control, isn't he?
Those hampers from these Middle Eastern countries will be really nice. I mean, they do generosity quite well with this sort of thing. I mean, to be fair on Hoyle, because we must be fair, I bet he's also given a bunch of stuff that he looks at and he's like, what the heck do I do with this? You know, stuff that you just don't want in your house. You can't eat it, you can't drink it. It's not worth anything, you know, and it's part of the game. You've got to give and exchange gifts. I think the difficulty here is that this is all looking so lavish, you know, combining it with the first class travel and the endless globe trotting. It's a really bad look, and it's a pity because I actually think he is a really good speaker. And I don't know when the job began to involve so much international travel. I mean, I don't remember other speakers in my time as a political journalist doing quite this much travelling around, you know, whatever it is they're doing.
No one else ever in the speaker's role has ever travelled like this. He has reinterpreted what the speaker should be doing.
I mean, the speaker's job is a really busy one in Parliament. I mean, of course,
sitting in a chair shouting order. Yeah,
there's long periods of recess, but you do have to be there quite a lot, and you've got a crucial role. And you know, I'm thinking back to speakers like Michael Martin, who was by the end, absolutely hated by pretty much everybody.
Warble's Mick.
And he got into all sorts of hot water, I think, on expenses, didn't he? I mean, he was really a very controversial speaker. But to give him his due, I don't think he was globetrotting. I don't think he globetrotted any further than Scotland. And then the ones that have followed, I don't remember, John Bercow, dreadful speaker, but I don't remember him.
He didn't. It's been his travel was just an absolute fraction of what Lindsay Hoyle's was. Lindsay Hoyle has redefined what the speaker ought to be doing. He thinks the speaker should be travelling around the world, attending conferences, selling Britain to the world. We don't need you to do that, Linz. Don't bother. We've got entire departments for that. Jacques Hughes, I think you just want to see the world at our expense, and we've had enough of it. We really have. And maybe stop taking all these gifts. I mean, as I say, in fairness, he's declared them all. And as you say, the threshold for declaration is £300. And I think they've got to change that threshold. £300 that can buy a lot of favour. Do you know what I mean? I think there should be no threshold for gifts. You should have to declare all gifts.
I don't know. I mean, do we really want to see a long list of kind of postcards and pin cushions and we
do. Yeah, we do. We tell those people that they work at our expense. They're not allowed to freeload like this. Why not? Why not? Come on,
300 quid is a lot of chocolates.
Of course it is, yeah.
The world in chocolates, and that is a lot of chocolate.
Yeah, and he got... He's got he ended up with, his list includes the full list: 80 bottles of booze, wine, champagne, whiskey, rum and other spirits, 26 ties, 26 pairs of cufflinks, and this is my favourite, Korean skincare products, books, drinking glasses, presents for his pets, a rug, pictures and decorative ornaments. Well done, Hoyle. That's quite a haul.
He's got a whole cellar's full of there, hasn't he? Uses a bet.
I'm not saying he's criminal of the century, but this just seems all wrong. And I think allowing representatives of the people to just accept gifts, free gifts, up to £300 with no questions asked, is a charter for potential corruption. Not that I am accusing Sir Lindsay Hoyle in any way of corruption. I'm just accusing him of spending too much taxpayers' money going around the world when he doesn't need to, and maybe, just maybe, he should draw the line on a few of these presents that he keeps accepting at an alarming rate. Well, let's leave Sir Lindsay there and move on. When we come back, we're going to be talking about the migrant hotel billionaire Graham King, known as the Asylum Seeker King, is making so much money from the government. Guess how much he's making every day? £4.8 million. Every day he's now officially become a billionaire. That's in the Sunday Times Rich List next week. So we'll talk about old Mr. King when we come back.
Nigel realises he don't want career politicians in his party. He doesn't want these waste of time, people that have just got no career or no business mind behind. He wants real people that know what they're talking about in business, and obviously someone that can get behind them on apprenticeships. I mean, apprentices are the future, James.
What really is at the back of the minds of some of these lefty layabouts is if you do a job with your hands, then you are working and in some way perhaps more important, but they don't mean it.
That was completely wrong. The police were absolutely out of order going into that gentleman's house. He was a former special constable, I think, rifled through his belongings and his wife's belongings and then locked him up in a police cell for a number of hours. It was completely wrong, total waste of police time, complete intrusion into his civil liberties. I think the police have apologised, quite rightly, but it should never have happened in the first place. The police should be concentrating on catching
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. I'm still with Talk's international editor, Isabel Oakeshott. Remember that film called Oh Lucky Man, Isabel? Well, it could have been made about Graham King. He's a caravan park tycoon. They call him the Asylum King. He's 58 years old. He is the founder of his own company, Clear Springs Ready Homes. He has a government contract to provide migrants with accommodation, food and transport. In the past lucrative year, his fortune has soared by 35%. His company rakes in a staggering £4.8 million every day from the government. And the last 12 months has seen him soar into billionaire status. So the migrant crisis, pretty bad thing, I would say, for virtually every person in Britain, but not for those who are cashing in on it, not for the likes of Graham King. There are more Graham Kings in this country, not quite as successful as him, but it's turned into a racket, hasn't it?
I think that fortune that he has made is deeply, deeply unethical. I don't think it's any better, perhaps even worse, than those people that made fortunes out of flogging PP, whatever it was called, PPE, I'm going to call it.
Yeah.
PP,
or PPI, you mean?
Whatever it was called, that awful plastic stuff that everyone thought that everybody needed during COVID. There were people that flogged that stuff and made vast fortunes, and it was so unethical, feeding off the back of a healthcare emergency. This is no different. This guy's fortune is taxpayers' money. That's where that fortune comes from. He is making a fortune off the backs of the general public. And there's far too much of this around now. There are far too many vested interests. We're pretty keen for the illegal immigration situation to keep going because they're making very, very fat livings out of it. And you and I have talked about this before, Kev. At the same time, there are a number of very principled hoteliers and almost certainly individual landlords too, who absolutely refuse to have anything to do with this. I think that it is heroic and right to say no to this, tempting as it must be, particularly as this government has made it so difficult for landlords to make a decent living out of normal tenancies. But folks, if you own one of these properties, please just say no.
Exactly. But remember that, folks. This guy alone, there are others like him. His company is taking from this government, this naive, born yesterday government, is playing this obviously very sharp businessman's company £4.8 million every single day. It's extraordinary. That's the kind of money that's been wasted on this migrant crisis. And while we're on the topic of the migrant crisis, it's our favourite topic, isn't it, in a way, there's been another one of these egregious examples of these ludicrous left-wing immigration tribunal judges letting someone stay for a ridiculous reason. This one, I never understand why we can't know these people's names, but for some reason our legal system protects these people who break into our country illegally and then break the law and then go to jail for things like paedophile child sex abuse, and we protect them. Mustn't name them, that wouldn't be very nice for them. But anyway, for some reason we don't say who these people are. Anyway, this is a Kurdish man, has been spared from the deportation that he was slated for, that he thoroughly deserved, for this reason. He has tattoos that his strict Islamic relatives back in his home country don't like. His body art is not apparently slavishly pro-Muslim enough. So he said to this court, if you send me back home, if you deport me back to my home country, my family, they'll get violent with me. They really disapprove of my tattoos. So the judge goes, oh, well, in that case, you can stay. Do you know what I would have said if I was the judge? Well, look, I'm still deporting you. Here's an idea. Don't go and see your family when you get home. How about that solution?
I thought you were going to say, here's an idea. Here's 50 quid. Take it down to the local tattoo artist store and get your tattoos changed for something else. You know, a big blob or whatever it may be. But that is not a reason to impose this character on the British people and the tax system for any longer. I mean, people hate this stuff. They absolutely hate this stuff. And as long as these cases, these completely ridiculous cases keep coming, Keir Starmer, doesn't matter what he does, he manages to reduce immigration by 50,000 or 100,000. Doesn't matter a jot. If there are still these cases and there are still people pouring across the channel, he's going to get no political credit for it at all.
Yeah, we've literally got 30 seconds to make this point. One of Starmer's new crackdown measures is he's going to tell these immigration judges, you know, to ignore the ECHR when it comes to the right to a family life. The reason they keep letting these deranged psychopaths and paedophiles stay in this country. Well, how's that going to work? I mean, why have they been enforcing the ECHR's clause so far? They're not going to stop doing this. What Starmer said today was a waste of time. It'll make a lot of headlines, already has, but it won't make any difference at all. Isabel, fantastic to talk to you as always. You'll be back, I think, on Wednesday or Thursday, later in the week anyway. I look forward to that. When we come back, the brave nurse who's speaking out against the NHS. That next, stay tuned.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is...
Welcome back. We are just waiting to talk to Brave, Darlington nurse. One of the Darlington nurses that you know are taking legal action against the NHS because the NHS foisted upon them we'll use the term this once, trans woman nurse, and that's a bloke pretending to be a woman. Darlington Memorial Hospital told the nurses who objected to this bloke being in their safe female space, their female changing rooms, you'll have to put up with it because that's trans and that's our policy, and you mustn't be bigoted. So the nurses there are taking legal action against the NHS, legal action that you might have thought would be home and dry after the Supreme Court's biological sex ruling a couple of weeks ago. But as in so many other areas of life, that is not the case. Karen Danson will join us soon to tell us her harrowing story. There's a reason that she was the one nurse among these nurses suing the NHS, suing for the right to have a women's only space, a female changing room without blokes in it. Blokes just saying, I identify as a woman, therefore I am a woman. There's a reason that Karen, until now, has not been named, and that is because she suffered a traumatic childhood at the hands of her evil father. She was sexually abused. So when she saw a bloke called Rose, not his real name obviously, in the female changing room, half-dressed, pair of boxer shorts with holes in them, she was so traumatised that she was frozen into silence. She couldn't speak. Now she is going to speak. There's another aspect to this. Later, Karen had to be a patient at Darlington Memorial Hospital, and had to undergo a hysterectomy, an intimate operation. She found out to her horror that this bloke Rose was the assigned nurse, was the nurse assigned to her surgery. When she objected to hospital executives, they told her, well, you'll have to lump it because we don't want to hurt his feelings. I mean, it's mad. I mean, I believe common sense eventually prevailed there, but Karen has been going through a special kind of a hell. She's just one of the nurses who are making a brave stance against what I would say cruel NHS wokery that completely ignores their concerns. Well, Karen can join us now. Welcome to the show, and thank you so much for joining us, Karen.
Oh, hello. Thank you for having me.
Now, I just sort of laid out your story, but as I say, I think there's something like 26 nurses at Darlington Memorial Hospital have signed a petition and are pursuing legal action against the NHS to enforce your female changing rooms, your women's only space. Your particular trauma involved being in there at the end of one of your shifts to find a bloke in there, a bloke calling himself Rose, in a state of undress, wearing a pair of boxer shorts with holes in them, leaving nothing to the imagination. And when he kept turning to you saying, aren't you going to get changed? Aren't you going to get changed? In a sort of taunting way. And because of we'll talk about your childhood if we may in just a little while, but because of your traumatic childhood, you found yourself frozen in fear, frozen into silence. You were unable to speak.
Yeah, I was absolutely petrified. At first I thought I was in the wrong changing room, because I looked up and there's clearly a man there. You could clearly see genitalia through his boxer shorts, and then the deep voice comes from behind, are you getting changed yet? And like 3 times within 5 minutes, it's pestering, and it had me worried, like, why does he want me to get changed? Is he trying to provoke a reaction? Does he actually want me to get changed? And I just went into panic mode, fight or flight. I wanted to get out of there, but I couldn't. I was sweating. I thought I was going to be sick or pass out. I was just literally glued to my seat. I couldn't move. I didn't know what to do.
And this sort of got worse. I mean, you added your name to the other brave nurses who are, you know, you've launched legal action against the NHS to, quite rightly in my view, demand your own space, your female-only space. But you were never named for the reason that of course you are in sympathy with your fellow nurses, you agree with their case, but on a personal basis, one of the reasons that you really don't want to be around men in the state of undress is your traumatic childhood. Your father sexually abused you, and when you saw this guy walking around in all his lack of glory, when you saw his manhood, it just brought back terrible memories of what your father did to you.
Oh, definitely. I mean, the abuse happened when I was 6. It started when I was 6, and it was 3 times a week, every week minimum, for 6 years. And there was obviously horrific things that he did within that 6 years. But a lot of the things, it was, he would walk into the bedroom when I was getting ready for bed or getting ready for school, and he would say, "You're not getting ready for bed yet. You're not getting changed." And then here I am as an adult in a changing room with a man who's saying, "Are you not getting ready? Like, are you not getting changed yet?" And it was just too much. The look my dad had on his face while he was abusing me was like the same look that this person had on his face. He was just smirking, and yeah, I couldn't cope. It just brought back like the nightmares and flashbacks.
So this bloke calling himself Rose, Karen, he was clearly enjoying your discomfort, your trauma, right?
Oh, definitely, definitely. He could see I was uncomfortable. I was at the point where I was shaking, I was ready to pass out when he was still stood smirking. Whether or not it was from a sexual point of view or whether or not he was literally just enjoying seeing me uncomfortable.
But for you, that was particularly horrifying because that expression on that guy's face reminded you of the expression on your father's face when he abused you, when no one else knew this was happening, right?
Yeah, definitely. And if it wasn't for the policy that the trust has in place, he wouldn't have been in that changing room in the first place. And I wouldn't have gone through all this.
Absolutely. Now, we'll come back to the case in just a minute, but it got worse, didn't it? Because you had to have, I know that you don't mind talking about this, it's obviously very personal details, but it's an important story to be told. You had endometriosis, so you had to have a hysterectomy. A very intimate operation for a lady to undergo, obviously. You then learn, this is at your hospital, Darlington Memorial, so you're not functioning here as an employee, as a nurse, you're a patient. You learn, to your horror, that this nurse, Rose, this bloke, Rose, is the nurse assigned to your surgery. So tell us what you did then. You went to the authorities?
I couldn't believe it at first. It's been going on, this endometriosis has been going on for years, diagnosed 6 years ago, and it was back and forth getting scans and things, and it was only about a month before the actual date of my surgery. My consultant said it was going to be part robotic, and I knew straight away that this person works in the robotic theatre. So I went round to theatres and I said, look, it's really not appropriate to have him in my procedure. You know, there's a conflict of interest. It's ethically inappropriate given what's happened in the changing room. I'm really not comfortable. And I said, like, what had happened to me as a child, not in a lot of detail. Mm-hmm. And I said, really, I want to be able to say I want as few men in there as possible. I'd known my gynecologist for like 6 years. I trusted him completely. It's hard for me to trust people, so I trusted him and I didn't want anything to jeopardise that. And theatre staff said, well, there's nothing we can do. Think about how this person would feel if he was removed from your theatre. I said, well, what about how I would feel? Like,
sorry. Unbelievable. So they prioritised not hurting his feelings over your deep, heartfelt desire not to have him anywhere near you when your surgery was going on. I mean, it seems to me a very reasonable request anyway. I mean, just generally speaking, I would have thought that apart from the men that you trust, like your gynecologist, you wouldn't be entirely thrilled by the idea of unknown men being around you anyway. I mean, this guy, Rose, is a man, and yet they were going to impose him on you, and they didn't want to listen to you. They thought hurting his feelings was much more important than your concerns. That to me, Karen, is extraordinary.
It's completely unacceptable. There was like no dignity there for me. They didn't care at all. I put it in writing, and they basically replied and said, we can't remove him out of your theatre, but what we can do is we can cancel your surgery. We can move you to a different doctor with a different consultant at an unknown date. And I couldn't believe it. I said, well, you're prolonging my pain now because it needs to be done. It's like an emergency. It's endometriosis. It's all over my bowels. It was a big operation. It was a joint case with the colorectal team. A lot of organisation went in. They just bypassed all that just to allow to have this person in my theatre. And it was only when I contacted the patient experience team and got the legal team involved that they did actually remove him out of the procedure, and it went ahead as normal.
Have you and your colleagues, your other nurse colleagues, have you been in touch with your union? Is it the National College of Nursing?
I'm not in a union just because I don't find them very well. I'm in the Delta Nursing Union, but I'm not in any other union. I didn't find them really supportive, and they seem to be taking a back seat. They don't. There's no support for them at all. I think I don't know why. They're just not very supportive.
And where are you at? I know that at one point that you and your fellow nurses, you had a meeting with the Health Secretary, Wes Streeting, didn't you? And I believe at the time you felt him to be rather sympathetic, but since time has carried on, perhaps not so sympathetic. Tell us about your meeting with Streeting.
He was, like I say, he was really supportive at the time. He was really polite, and I told him just a little bit about what had happened, and he said, I can't sit opposite you and say that you need to broaden your mindset or be educated. And we trusted him, we believed him. He said he would get something done, but here we are over 6 months later. He said he was going to wait for the Supreme Court ruling. That's obviously been clarified, and he's still sat there not doing anything. It's his job as, to do something.
Now, you and your fellow nurses, they started off being the Darlington Five, didn't they? But there's quite a few more of you now. So you've sued the NHS, demanding your own safe females-only space. No biological males. You must have thought that when the Supreme Court made their ruling 2 weeks ago about biological sex, that your case was now a foregone conclusion. You were home and dry. Nothing to see here anymore. We win. But I don't think that is the situation. Where is your lawsuit standing? What are the NHS saying to combat what you're demanding? What you're demanding is a safe female space, no biological men. They have to go along with that, but are they still resisting you?
They are, yes. This person's still got access to the female-only changing room, and we're still in our little converted office. So we've been ostracised into there. But that little office falls under the same policy. So if this person wanted to use and get changed with us, he still could.
Well, hang on, let's rewind there. So Rose, you've been told, you and the Darlington nurses, it's Darlington 26 now, isn't it, have been told, look, Rose is still coming into your changing rooms, is still coming into your female-only changing rooms, whether you like it or not. And in response, they've given you some kind of office you can change in. So, in other words, they prioritised one bloke over all of you women. How do you feel about that?
Absolutely disgusted. It's unacceptable. Why should the concerns or the feelings of one person outweigh the concerns of 26 others, especially people like myself who's been through trauma? There could be other people in that changing room who are scared to come forward, and they're still standing there with him.
And how has this been for you personally, Karen? Because your kids, you've got 2 kids now in their 20s and obviously a loving husband as well. Now, I think your husband knew about your traumatic past, your being sexually abused by your father, but your kids didn't. And they've, through your bravery in coming out in public, they've come to know this. Well, first of all, before we get to your kids, what made you decide it's time for me to go public? It's time for me to stand up and be counted and to tell my story. What made you decide to identify yourself, to waive your actual legal right to anonymity?
I think I was trying to do it for other people, because, like I said, there could be other people in that room who's too scared to come forward, and I had lots of encouragement from the girls, and I just got sick of hiding behind this. My anonymity was my armour. I got sick of being scared and thinking it's something to be ashamed of. Well, you know, it isn't. And like I said, the children didn't know, and I didn't know how to approach that and tell them. And yeah, I just got sick of hiding in the darkness, really. And I found my voice, and I thought, you know, this is for me to. It's my time now to step forward.
And what did you got one boy and one girl, haven't you? Well, I should say one man and one woman now. How did they react when they found out about your past?
They were quite shocked at first. They suspected something must have happened because I don't talk about him. There's no pictures of him in the house. But when I actually told them, they were just completely shocked. They were like, whoa, you know, I didn't expect this at all. And my son just said, Mum, you know, are you okay? And that's something the trust have never said to me. They've never asked, am I okay? But they're just so heartwarming, they're so supportive, and he gave me a big hug and he was like, it's going to be okay. We've got you.
And it sounds like you've got a great supportive husband as well.
Well, definitely, yeah, he's behind me 100%.
And are you pleased that you've now come out to tell your story? I think what you've done is courageous, and I think it's important. We need to know the details. You know, sometimes, of course, it's basic. You know, blokes should not be allowed into females' safe spaces. But there are, you know, loads of women with stories like you who have far more than legal reasons to object to this. So I do think it's important that you've come out and told your story. Are you pleased that you've done this?
Oh, definitely. It feels like a whole weight's been lifted off my shoulders. I feel like a different person. It's like there's this light about me, this glowing. I just feel so much happier, and if I can help even just one person find the courage and strength to come forward and say, this is not okay, then, you know, I'll be happy.
And just the last couple of points. So the NHS, I mean, what we're talking about is a kind of, you know, wokery. It's a crazed wokery that prioritises political correctness over common sense, to be honest with you. What exactly is wrong with people like you and your fellow nurses saying to the NHS, look, would it be all right if we had our own space? Would it be all right if biological men are not allowed in there? And them saying, no, it's not all right. The NHS is full of woke idiots whose wokery has resulted in them, I think, losing all sense of common sense and human decency.
Well, it's biological fact. You're either a man or a woman, and you think people like the NHS would actually know that. And
there is, you would, wouldn't you? And lastly, Karen, where are you at with where are you and your colleagues at with your legal action? When will it be heard? What is the situation right now?
So it's going to still go to tribunal in October. It was supposed to be next month, June, but it got delayed because the trust didn't meet deadlines and things like that, and it got pushed back to October. So that's where we stand at the moment.
Well, if it's any solace to you, I can't see how you can lose now, not with this Supreme Court ruling. Do you? You must be confident.
Definitely. More confident with the ruling. Yeah, it's there in black and white. Nothing's changed. It's just been clarified. So, yeah, definitely more confident. But we're going to fight it all the way. The Trust have got a battle on their hands, and I do think that we're going to win.
Yeah. Well, if they're all like you, they're going to lose. They're definitely going to lose. Karen, you're a very brave lady, and I really appreciate you coming on, and we will keep in touch with you. Thank you so much. Karen Danson there, a brave nurse at Darlington Memorial Hospital. Your thoughts, 0344 499 1000. How can the NHS continue to deprive these women of their basic request? It's perfectly decent, isn't it, for them to say, look, we don't want to share our changing rooms and our lavatories with blokes. How can the NHS tell them, well, you're going to have to? Unbelievable. What has gone wrong with our NHS? 0344 499 1000. While we're at it, let me know what you think about our migrant crisis, our Prime Minister's crackdown, the nonsense he unleashed on an unsuspecting public today, saying that he's going to really solve this crisis, but he's not, is he? 0344 499 1000. What do you think about that guy, Graham King, the asylum seeker king, the asylum king, whose fortune now has soared by 38%, and he's now worth over £1 billion. He's a billionaire earning £4.8 million a year from our sucker of a government. 0344 499 1000. And Sir Lindsay Long-Haul Hoyle, the man who loves to travel the world, luxury traveller at our expense, has now been revealed to be a man who's not unpartial to a free gift or two. He's accepted 300 presents over the last 4 years. Doesn't this all seem wrong to you? 0344 499 1000. When we come back, the police, they've been at it again. Stay tuned.
The Prime Minister has frequently said that growth involves a workforce, a highly trained workforce. What about those 9 million people who don't get up and go to work every day for lots of different reasons? Of course, some of them totally legitimate, sometimes less. So there are loads of questions that are in this, and we still don't have a lot of answers in terms of how this will work practically. No. Also, how does he make sure that it is kept away from the people that he used to be, the human rights lawyers, who will say, oh well, actually these people got to stay in the country anyway, even if you want to deport them?
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back there. Talking about maybe 700 or more migrants have come across the channel today. Been a lovely sunny day. The English Channel's like a mill pond. They're absolutely, it's like an armada of the illegals smashing their way into the country. No questions asked. Here they all come. We don't know the numbers yet, but we were hearing that by 1 p.m. today, something like 450 have arrived. I last heard about 5 o'clock it was 600 and rising. This could be the biggest day of the year, the biggest previous day being something like, I think about a month ago, 705. This could be bigger. So the migrant crisis not really being solved by this government, is it? Let me know. 0344 499 1000. Do you fancy being a billionaire? Why don't you be like Graham King, the Asylum King? He's a caravan park tycoon who now takes a government contract to supply migrants, asylum seekers, with accommodation, with food, with transport, and his company is making a cool, check this out, £4.8 million every day. Graham is now a billionaire. Migrant crisis, good news for some. Would you like to be like Graham? Oh, well, yeah, well, I know the answer to that, but why are we creating billionaires like Graham King? Why? Why is the government doing this? 0344 499 1000, and let me know what you thought about that brave nurse, Karen Danson, who just spoke to me about her ordeal at the hands of a bloke walking around the female changing room at Darlington Memorial Hospital, taunting her with his whole holy boxer shorts, saying, aren't you going to get changed? Aren't you going to get changed? Why should nurses have to go through this? This is a disgrace. It's got to stop, hasn't it? 0344 499 1000. Now, the next story we're going to cover is one of those stories that if it was like 5 years ago, people go, oh, God, don't be ridiculous. Couldn't possibly happen in Britain. Now it's all too familiar. Down in Kent, a former Kent police officer for 10 years, he was a serving Kent copper, Julian Fawkes. He's now 76 years old, retired, living in Gillingham, the Kent town of Gillingham. Last November, I think it was, his home was November 23, just after the October the 7th atrocity. His home was raided by 6 Kent coppers. He was handcuffed, and they started kind of rather clumsily going through all of his possessions, going through his books, everything. One of the officers, a female officer, relaying back to the station, how's it going with that important raid on the 76-year-old former copper? A lot of stuff here, Gov. Very Brexity. I mean, poor Julian Fawkes, for that is his name, he had the temerity to own 2 books by Douglas Murray. I mean, he should get life for that. It's very Brexity. Somebody needs to tell these coppers on the front line, and also the idiots who dispatch them on this ridiculous mission, harassing one of their own who's done nothing wrong. Someone should tell them that even if, which he is not, Julian was some kind of Brexiteer maniac, it's not illegal to support Brexit. With me now is a former copper who, like me, would not be able to believe this except for the policing has changed since his day. He is, of course, in the studio. Brilliant ex-Scotland Yard detective Mike Neville. Mike, your thoughts?
Well, it's just truly appalling. The first thing I think is what it shows is how the police training has changed. When I went to police training at Hendon, it was like a military establishment, drill sergeants marching around, and it set an agenda. Now these police officers go to a university, and what you see is this like insidious left-wing influence, this idea that supporting Brexit or liking Douglas Murray or reading The Spectator is some kind of sin. So that's number one. Number two, the police forces involved. The original information on this didn't come from a member of the public. It came from the Met. The Met gave it to Kent. Now, if the Met and Kent police were solving every burglary, every theft, every rape, every robbery, you could think, well, they might be able to focus on something else. But these are 2 police forces, so the Met were inspected and described as inadequate at investigating crime. They solve about 3% of crimes. Kent were described as needing improvement, and they solve about 6% of all reported crimes.
Needing improvement.
So those 6 officers would have been better in Gillingham town centre, patrolling, catching shoplifters, dealing with antisocial behaviour, making us all safe. And then there's the police procedure issue. Why are you handcuffing a 76-year-old man?
In his own home.
Somebody has got to justify this. And also, when he was taken to the police station, a sergeant has got to sign a legal document which amounts to why this person has been arrested. So there needs to be a top-to-bottom inquiry here to say who authorised this? Who said send these 6 officers? Then who said handcuff an old man who has no danger whatsoever, no intelligence about danger, and who authorised him to be locked in a cell for 8 hours? Because, and what this does as well, I noticed what his lawyer said, is it sends out a message. Freedoms don't get taken away all at once. What happens is that there's a gradual, insidious creep where you get taken, and people get afraid. So his neighbours will now think, do you know what, I won't put out that tweet that I don't agree with illegal immigration. And people are silenced, and it's the wickedness of that.
And that's his tweet, by the way, his offending tweet. This was why they raided his house. Was soon after the October the 7th Hamas atrocity, where he sort of questioned a pro-Palestine protester and expressed Julian Fuchs expressed his concern at the rising tide of anti-Semitism, a very, very valid concern at that time and to this day. It was a perfectly harmless, legal tweet, and yet this massive raid, as if he's some kind of, pro-Israel extremist or something. And it gets worse, Mike. They also, Julian Fuchs' wife is a retired hairdresser. They found her shopping list, which they found to be extremely concerning. She was clearly a dangerous far-right terrorist, because in this shopping list was bleach, tin foil and gloves.
Surely not.
Now, you know, she's obviously dodgy. I mean, what's going through their heads?
Well, it
perfectly
just,
nice couple.
It just, and also, what people will be thinking is, if somebody was tweeting pro-Palestinian things, would they receive the same treatment? And there's this real lack of trust in the police. So the trust and confidence in the police is at the floor. So the police are always telling us, oh, we're doing all these things, and we're fiddling the figures and recruiting ethnic minorities, recruiting women, and doing all these things that no one in the public really cares about. The trust and confidence goes through the floor, and what happens is that people just see this two-tier policing, and we're constantly told by the establishment there is no two-tier policing, but they can say it as much as they want because people can see it at the end of their nose. It's obvious what's going on here, and this man, you know, it's just terrible. And the other thing about the police as well is they sometimes bully people into taking caution. So they'll say, if you take a caution,
I know they
you'll be able to leave, and people don't realise the consequences of that, then, because
that's a criminal record.
It's a criminal record. They've got your fingerprints. They've got your DNA, and it is. And when somebody does a check on you have it. And no one, in my view, should take a caution unless they speak to a solicitor. And I say that as an ex-officer, because I know, as a retired officer, some people, they haven't got enough evidence because they push it. Because if this had been sent to the Crown Prosecution Service, it would have been kicked into touch. But the easy thing for the police is to give a caution, and then they score a point. Yeah. That point is as good as a charge.
Now they have Julian Fuchs, former copper, and by the way, shouldn't they have treated him a bit more decently? It's one of your own. You know what I mean? What a disgraceful thing to do to a retired colleague.
Do you know what, Kevin? I was in an Uber with a friend, and this police car cut him up, and the police car they stopped this Uber driver. They were so rude to him, so rude. And I got out. I said, you know, I'm retired detective chief inspector. Oh, you can get lost. That's how this.
They hate you because you're the old form of.
But you know, my
when
friend,
policing was decent.
And my friend, who's nothing to do with the police, you know, he worked with his tiling and all this. He said they were bullies, and it was just. Yeah. I felt ashamed because I was proud to be a Scotland Yard detective, and the police in Britain have always been seen as kind, generous, decent, and all this trust and confidence is going out the window.
Julian Fuchs, obviously no full former copper, refused to take the caution, and he is now suing the hell out of Kent Police, and he's going to win, isn't he? Obviously, this was a disgraceful thing for the police to do. They've admitted that this ludicrous soup was a mistake.
And how many
Why didn't they know that in the first place?
Well, and how many more of these are there that we've got to get on with? And how is it that, you know, I saw Chris Philps, the previous police minister, criticising this. This happened on the time of a Conservative government when he was the policing minister. It isn't good enough. And now we've got another Home Secretary saying, Yvette Cooper, I've got little time for, but she said the police must focus on burglary, robbery, theft, whatever. But the police seem to have a mind of their own. They just seem to be... It's almost like a lot of this transgender stuff. They can't leave it alone. They're told it's not right. They're told don't do these non-crime hate incidents. But it's so ingrained in them, they can't stop. It just needs a real change of leadership at the top.
Yeah. The police are like so many other official bodies, public bodies right now that need to be told. The Supreme Court made a ruling 2 weeks ago. That is now the law. And as the police, might be an idea if you observe that law. Rachel Swan, the Chief Constable of Derbyshire, she actually stood up and said, in terms of I'm not using this anymore, but, you know, coppers, male coppers who want to pretend they're women, who identify as women, have hitherto, to this day actually, been allowed to strip search real females, real women. Strikes me as all wrong, but that was such was the wokery that engulfed the police. That ruling should have changed all that. What was Rachel Swan's reaction? We won't be moving anytime soon to do anything about that. It's outrageous.
It is, and not only it is outrageous because most criminals are men. 95% of criminals are men. But the women who are criminals are often victims. There's all sorts of circumstances, mental health, domestic violence, all sorts of horrible things, prostitution, but dreadful things. And then this vulnerable woman is searched by a bloke dressed in a skirt. It is just truly shocking. Is that progress? I don't think so.
Vulnerable or not, no real woman should be searched by a man, a pretend woman. No, that should not be happening. Obviously, Rachel Swan, I think, speaking for a lot of chief constables, we won't be moving on that very particularly quickly anytime soon. I mean, it's outrageous.
Well, it's group thing.
Yeah.
You've got the entire lot of chief constables.
Stubborn group thing.
And there used to be a mix of people, ex-military, then university. They're all the same ilk now. They're clones. All come from the same university, but they'll talk about diversity, they'll talk about skin colour, gender, all this. They have no diversity of thought whatsoever. Everybody thinks the same, and that's what's wrong.
Every time I speak to you, Mike, I've said it to you a million times. I always say to old Peter Blexley as well, I wish you two were still coppers.
Well, I offer my services to the police to come back and help them catch more criminals.
Yeah, or any. That would be a good start. Mike Neville, former Scotland Yard detective. Brilliant stuff. Thank you so much for coming in. When we come back, we'll take a couple of your calls. Then we're going to America to talk about Donald Trump. Apparently he wants to accept a spanking free jet plane, a big massive great jumbo thing or whatever the hell they are now, to be the new Air Force One for America. But who wants to give it to him free? It's Qatar. Full of jihadis, jihadis in sports wash suits. Is he really going to take a gift from them? I don't know. We'll talk about that after we've spoken to you. So your call's next. Thanks to Mike Neville, and we'll be back in a mo.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Did you watch brave nurse Karen Denson telling me her harrowing story? She's one of the Darlington nurses who refuses or doesn't want blokes in the female changing rooms. The NHS thinks otherwise, is demanding that they have to put up with blokes wandering around with their crown jewels hanging out. Karen's reason for being so traumatised to having to share her safe space with a bloke is that she was sexually abused by her father. Growing up, so she has all sorts of reasons to be against this. Why aren't the NHS listening to all of these nurses, but especially Karen? Don't you think that's an outrage? 0344 499 1000. In a little while, we're going over to Chicago to talk to our friend Greg Swenson about the latest developments on Planet Trump. And indeed, he's in Chicago, hometown of the new Pope, so a little bit about him as well. But first, let's talk to Carl in Liverpool. Hi, Carl.
Hi, Kev, you all right?
I'm good. You fancy being a billionaire, migrant hotel billionaire? Not bad. No, good, nice work if you can get it, right?
Yeah, of course. Well, if you think of it like that, the amount of money he's earning, he's probably earning more than most of the most important people in the world.
4.8. His company is getting £4.8 million every single day from the government to provide migrants, asylum seekers with accommodation, food and transport. So, as I say, the migrant crisis isn't bad news for everyone in this country.
No, but ultimately that's on the back of the taxpayers, you know.
Well, we're paying for it. Don't you worry about that, Carl.
You know, Keir Starmer, again, hasn't read the room. You know, he's... I think he deliberately does these things to provoke a reaction. He already knows that the British public are not happy, so... It's like he's
panicking. He's absolutely terrified of Reform UK.
Well,
this is a panic. This is a knee-jerk reaction to Reform UK's political earthquake, and I'm not buying it because it doesn't amount to a hill of beans. You know, it's nothing. He's just tinkering around the edges, right?
Yeah, he's lied. He's lied from the very first moment he got into office. Yeah. Everything that comes out of his mouth is a lie. No one believes him. No one's got any sort of confidence in him. I mean, the British public hate him.
Yeah, I know. You know, how can you tell when Keir Starmer's lying? His lips move.
Yeah, but Kev, this is the thing, if you don't mind me saying...
Yeah, quickly, mate. Yeah, go on.
There's got to be someone who works alongside him that has had a word and said, you know, come on, enough's enough type of thing. And if there's not, then they're responsible.
Yeah, no, but the whole thing is a mess. Can I ask you something completely unrelated to this? You might not be a football fan, but if you are you Liverpool or Everton?
I'm Liverpool.
OK, well, I'm very happy with you. But how is it that my team, Fulham, managed to lose to Liverpool, or rather beat Liverpool, and we lose to your team, Everton? No, you're Liverpool, aren't you? So we lose to Everton, and we beat Liverpool. So
that's the Premier League for you, Kev. You know that yourself, being a Fulham fan. It's the Premier League. Fulham have given Liverpool some good games over the years.
Yeah, we have. We beat you 3-2 the other week, but somehow managed to lose to mediocre Everton yesterday, or rather on Saturday. Very depressing for me. Carl, really good to talk to you. Keep in touch, mate. Carl in Liverpool. Let's go to break. Greg Swenson in Chicago. When we come back, stay where you are.
The Prime Minister has frequently said that growth involves a workforce, a highly trained workforce. What about those 9 million people who don't get up and go to work every day for lots of different reasons? Of course, some of them totally legitimate, sometimes less. So there are loads of questions that are in this, and we still don't have a lot of answers in terms of how this will work practically. No. Also, how does he make sure that it is kept away from the people that he used to be, the human rights lawyers, who will say, oh well, actually these people got to stay in the country anyway, even if you want to deport them.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's go straight over to Chicago, God's own country, and talk to the chair of the Republican Overseas Organisation here in London, but he's in America now, Greg Swenson. Hi, Greg.
Great to see you, Kevin.
Always a pleasure. All right, got a lot to get through in about 10 minutes, so let's keep up some pace here. Well, first of all, what do you make of this rather eye-catching story that Donald Trump wants to accept from Qatar the gift of this massive great Air Force One plane, which really appeals to him because inside it's all decorated in gold, and Donald loves the look of brothel-style gold, doesn't he? But a lot of people are saying, well, you can't accept this from Qatar because Qatar basically is populated by a bunch of jihadis in suits who go in for sports washing, World Cup and all that. But Trump's saying, well, they're all losers. The Democrats are losers over this because I can get this very expensive plane free for the American people, saving the taxpayers' money. Now, you know me, and I think you're on my side here. You know, I'm a big fan of Donald Trump, but I don't think he can take a plane from the Qataris, can he?
Yeah, I don't know if he could take it personally, but if he took it as, you know, on behalf of the United States government and as a, you know, a gesture, just like we took the Statue of Liberty from the, you know, accepted the Statue of Liberty from the French of all people. So, you know, look, I don't think this is going to end up the way it was promoted at first. This is the classic President Trump model. You know, he goes out and says something provocative, maybe disruptive or unorthodox at least, and you know, hey, look, the Air Force One is 40 years old. It's probably time for an upgrade.
Yeah, I think that's the point. And I agree with you. I think he's testing the waters. You know, what would people think if I take this plane from Qatar? He's tempted. But, you know, every time he got into Air Force One, people would have to say, of course, that's the plane that Qatar gave to America. I think it would be a bit demeaning to America. I mean, you know, your country is not exactly hard up. It can afford its own jets. You know, as I say, you know me, I back Trump to the hilt, but I'm not backing him on this, and nor are you, Greg?
Well, he's got people talking about it though, and that's the classic model for President Trump. He's the left and the mainstream media in the U.S. are freaking out, and they'll make a big deal out of it, and something else will happen. It'll be a different outcome. Yeah. So we'll see.
It's funny. He's just being disruptive again, isn't he? Right, let's talk about something rather more important. I've been meaning to get you for some time on this. Well, I want to talk about today's deal with China, but preempting that, of course, was the deal last week. Suddenly, rather dramatically announced the deal between Britain and America, the new trade deal. Now, I think Britain was right to accept that deal, but it revealed exactly what Trump's tariff game plan has always been. It is, I'm going to slap 100% tariffs on you. Oh my God, no, we don't want that, we don't. All right then, how about 20%? Oh, what a relief. we'll take that. Well, in a sort of smaller way, essentially the tariffs on British goods were 25%, some of them 10% under Liberation Day that you were hit in this studio as it unfolded over there in Washington. So basically he said 25% on cars, 10% on everything else. And last week he suddenly said, tell you what, we'll bring it all down. We'll take the tariffs right off steel. We'll take the tariffs completely off aluminium, or aluminum, as you say on your side of the pond. Also, no tariffs on car parts for expensive cars like Rolls-Royce and Aston Martin, and bring tariffs on everything else down to 10%. Now, that still meant that we were paying 10% more than we were before Liberation Day. I think the British government was right to take that deal because it's better than nothing, and it did save tens of thousands of jobs over here in the UK, but it does reveal exactly what his game plan was. Hit them high and then agree to something lower, but it's still higher than it was, right?
Absolutely. I mean, that's the model for President Trump. You know, he aims high, maybe way too high on a couple of issues, but then settles somewhere in the middle. The left and the media freak out for a few days, or in this case, a few weeks, and then everything settles down. I mean, look at the outcome here. We have a free trade deal. It's the first, basically the first major trade deal that was announced. It'll probably be a template for other deals. It's another testament to Brexit, the fact that the UK was able to make this deal without being constrained by the shackles of the EU and the regulatory state of the EU. I hope they do some more liberating and some more deregulation in the UK, almost modeled after the US. I'm not sure they will, but that would be a step in the right direction. So, yeah, I think net, this was a positive for both countries. Did President Trump get a better deal? Possibly. If you look at the numbers and the metrics, that looks pretty good for the US. But, the UK didn't have a major or significant trade surplus with the U.S. They were in a good position. And I think, Mendelsohn, the ambassador,
yeah.
I thought he was really good in that meeting. I thought it was another, as I mentioned, another testament to Brexit, something that should have been done 7, 8, 9 years ago, but took a while, as the president pointed out many times. So good for Keir Starmer and good for Mendelsohn for how they handled the president, and that I thought the Oval Office meeting was fantastic on a big news day.
Yeah, no, it was a good bit of staging. As I say, I think those of us over here who have questions shouldn't moan too much. Tens of thousands of jobs were saved, but Donald Trump's a businessman, and he played Keir Starmer like a fiddle, but it is the template that he's going to basically play every country on. He's going to say, look, here's 50% tariffs. Guess what? I can now offer you 25% or 20%, and most countries will go, well, that's better than the 50%, we'll take it. Trump wins. It's interesting stuff. What about the new deal with China? I haven't particularly caught up with the details. Is it good? What's the situation?
It's great news. The markets are up huge in the U.S. today. The Dow's up 2.5%, S&P 3%, NASDAQ 4%. It's a massive rally in the markets. Maybe you could call it a relief rally, on the good news. But I think, again, it's classic President Trump formula. Goes out of the gates being really provocative, with the tariff wars and basically the retaliation from China. China just couldn't stick it out. There's no way that the country with the surplus, the trade surplus, never wins in a trade war. They're completely dependent on the U.S. consumer. It shows you the power of the U.S. consumer as well. 1/3 of their exports are going to the U.S. And our trade with China is a fraction of our GDP, whereas for China, it's really meaningful. They couldn't live without us. So, look, this is a great outcome for the world. It's a great outcome for the U.S. and ultimately a great outcome for China if they can get their act together and sort of move from exporting prison and slave labor to and cheap labor to the world and become more of a consumption economy and just level it out a bit. It's good news for them too.
Yeah, the way I see it, it's just like Britain with China. It's a win for Trump, but it's not a disaster for China, which, as I say, is the blueprint for his tariff policies. Let's quickly go on. You're in Chicago. hometown of the Pope, Pope Leo XIV, whose name was Robert Prevost before he got his papal name. He's got a couple of interesting brothers. Well, first of all, have a look at his brother John.
And you said you spoke to him right before conclave?
Mm-hmm.
Tell me what that conversation was like.
Really? First we do Wordle, because this is a regular thing, okay? Then we do Words with Friends. It's something to keep his mind off life in the real world. And then we talk about what's going on, and I said, well, do you have your red socks? That doesn't go over well all the time. And then just that kind of stuff, and I said, well, are you ready for this? I said, did you watch the movie Conclave so you know how to behave? And he had just finished watching the movie Conclave. So he knew how to behave. So it's that kind of stuff, because I wanted to take his mind off of it, you know, and laugh about something, because this is now an awesome responsibility.
Yeah, Conclave, not a bad movie until you get to the absolutely absurd woke ending, but we'll park that one there. Now, his other brother, Louis, older brother, is possibly more interesting than John. Louis has posted about top veteran Democrat Nancy Pelosi, once called her on social media a drunk C-word, which isn't very papal, is it? But he comes, does he not, from a really low-rent part of town?
Well, he comes from a working class background and a working class neighborhood on the south side of Chicago, and a very close suburb just south of the south side. So essentially working class south side. The only other famous person from the south side, or more recently, is Michelle Obama, but whose father was a steelworker, if I recall. But I do think that, you know, it shows you that he's got, you know, some real grassroots background, and we're, you know,
his house is for sale, the old house, and it's quadrupled in value apparently. Doesn't like Trump. More of that later. Good to talk, Greg. See you soon.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. In about 20-25 minutes, be taking your calls for the rest of the show. 0344 499 1000. You know what we're talking about, the migrant crisis. We believe we may be on for the biggest day of the year. Maybe 700 plus have come across the channel on this calm and sunny day. Meanwhile, Keir Starmer says he's going to have a crackdown that will solve the migrant crisis, but it won't, will it? 0344 499 1000. What did you think of his new measures? Were they just tinkering around the side? I say he was. Leave the ECHR, detain and deport, stop the boats. These are the kind of things that will solve the migrant crisis. Trying to find out whether or not carers have got university degrees. Don't really see that cutting to the heart of the issue, do you? 0344 499 1000. Let me know what you think about that. Let me know what you think about Asylum King billionaire Graham King, who's earning £4.8 million every single day from the government. Migrant contracts to supply asylum seekers with food, with transport, with accommodation. £4.8 million every day. He's now a billionaire. 0344 499 1000. And you must let me know what you think about brave nurse Karen Denson, who told her story of horror, why she is so furious that the NHS, the hospital, the Arlington Memorial Hospital, is still allowing men, biological men, into female safe spaces. 0344 499 1000. All that in, as I say, 20-25 minutes. Also, I'll take your messages and your WhatsApp voice notes, maybe. But first, before all of that, it's time for my fantastic Monday conversation. Always look forward to this with our royal guru over there on the west coast of America, Kinsey Schofield. Hi, Kins.
Hi, Kevin, Harry and Meghan. Another weekend of whiplash. We're fearful for our lives, but we've got time for Texas Hold'em.
Exactly. You and me, over every weekend, we're like WhatsApping each other a blizzard of new stories. You know, it's like, oh, my God, these two, will they get out of our face? Well, let's first of all talk about... well, listen... I want to talk about the Mother's Day message that Meghan Markle essentially sent to herself in just a little while. But Prince Harry, as you and I have discussed, has had a sort of avalanche of negative publicity, quite deservedly so, ever since he gave last Friday week to the BBC that appalling interview, saying things like, I don't know how long my father's got to live, lashing out furiously at his own family, at the government, saying that his father, the king, was in cahoots, conspiring with the government because they want him dead. All this kind of over-the-top nonsense, all because he lost that case, that long-running legal case he had to demand armed police protection whenever he comes to the country, to this country. He lost that case. Third time he's lost it. And then, of course, like a spoilt brat, went into a sulk, chucked his toys out of the pram and gave this kind of horrible interview to the BBC. So they've been receiving this avalanche of terrible publicity. He deserves it from all over the world. And my thought to you, Kinsey, is this, that these two, Harry and Meghan, it doesn't matter what the negative publicity is. It doesn't matter what bad press they receive. They got one response, one answer. We'll prove you all wrong. Here's some pictures of us being really happy. Look how much we love each other. Well, I mean, great. So they go to this Beyonce concert. We've got some footage, I think, of that, or some pictures, where in LA, I think it was, there's Meghan, and there's pictures of Harry in a cowboy hat. There he is. Doesn't he look great? What a fox. What a fox. And there they are, more friends and everything. And then there's a picture of Harry kissing her and all this stuff. This stuff, look at this. This is Peyton, isn't it? They're so in love. They're so happy. They think, for some reason, that this counteracts all the negative publicity about his abysmal interview to the BBC. I mean, why? It doesn't. It's irrelevant. They think this is the answer to everything. Show everyone we're happy, show everyone we're in love, and that cancels out anything negative, any bad press we get. How weird.
Well, they're not the only one that is playing by this playbook. We're also seeing this from Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively, who are having the worst PR crisis of their lives right now. Their solution to try to dismiss some of Justin Baldoni's like literal receipts, saying that, you know, you're in a Justin Baldoni's case, saying, Blake Lively, you're lying. Their reaction to that is, let's just suck face at the football game and everybody will pretend like none of this is going on. So you're seeing them basically follow the same path. Blake was also, I actually am like now starting to sit back and think about it, going, is there a legitimate connection here? Because Ryan Reynolds spoke at the Time 100 event right before Meghan Markle did. Right. Blake Lively featured on the Time 100 most influential list. So now I am going, wait, are there some legitimate contacts here that they share?
Well, whoever's giving Harry and Meghan advice, it's very bad advice. This doesn't work. What are you going to say if you want to counteract the bad publicity, Harry, that you got from that appalling interview you gave to the BBC?
Well, it's not
Talk about that. Don't go to a Beyonce concert and kiss your wife. That doesn't work. That's irrelevant.
You talk about an avalanche of negative publicity for Prince Harry. It started well before this BBC interview. It started with Senabale, when a black woman comes out and says, you have been racially discriminatory towards me. You've been discriminatory towards me because of the fact that I'm a woman. I mean, Harry has been accused of a lot over the last few weeks, over the last few months, while Meghan's been desperately trying to pull the I'm having the best time of my life. I'm living my best life right now, through her interviews with Jamie Kern-Lima and some of her podcasts, and now her social media. One carousel on Instagram of staged photos doesn't counteract the 400 pictures and videos that were taken by other attendees at the Beyonce concert of Prince Harry's face in his cell phone, not dancing, looking miserable. You know, everybody knows that it's a transparent PR stunt. But Prince Harry, this is probably one of the worst few months of his life.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Senabale and the African Parks charity scandal, he has lost it all. Invictus is the only thing he has going for him. And he gets to do that, what, once every 2 years? Get a real job.
Yeah. Try and find something to do with your life. But you're absolutely right. At this Beyonce concert, when he wasn't being photographed in this kind of staged choreographed pictures, he was apparently looking bored, looking at his phone. This isn't his kind of thing. I still say
the biggest paparazzi in Harry's life, the biggest paparazzi in Harry's life is Meghan Markle, who, while he's going out everywhere campaigning against pictures of children on social media, his wife is posting picture after picture of his children on social media and posting pictures of him on social. The biggest paparazzi in his life, he married on purpose.
We're told that he just did not enjoy that Beyonce concert at all. It's not his sort of thing. As I say, he spent the entire time apparently looking up miserably now and again, and then being beckoned over. Come on, Harry, pose for another picture. So he put on his cowboy hat and did that. So I don't think any of that image making is washing with anyone, really. Let's talk about this Mother's Day message that Meghan essentially gave to herself. Well, we've got the picture here of a card that she sent. And the message is all about her, isn't it?
Yeah, where is any sort of honoring Doria Ragland, who is literally most likely Meghan's second nanny in chief, who was with the kids when they were at the Beyonce concert a week after Prince Harry says that they're in physical jeopardy. Somebody had to stay home with the kids. I'm assuming it's Doria Ragland. The least she could do is get a shout out. It's classic.
This is the. You're looking at the picture now. That apparently is at Montecito. because they were recently in Mexico. It looks a bit Mexican, but a lot of stuff in California looks a bit Mexican. So that apparently is at Montecito. So that picture of the two kids like hanging over her, is it both the kids? Yes, it is. The caption that she, the Duchess of Sussex, posted on Instagram was this: "Happy Mother's Day. Cheers to juggling it all with joy, and to these two gems who still attempt to climb Mama Mountain, smother me with kisses and make every day the most memorable adventure. Being your mom is the greatest privilege of my life. I too love you more than all the stars in all the sky, all the raindrops, and wait for it, eat your heart out, Shakespeare, forget it, William Wordsworth, I love and all the salt on all the French fries in all the world." Where did she get that from? But I like that. Look, they're smothering me with kisses. They're climbing Mama Mountain. She can't even talk about her kids without it being about her, can she?
Yeah, I mean, I think I actually have blocked her on social media. So anytime I see these things, you guys are showing them to me for the first time. And I'm glad that I'm glad she doesn't interrupt my real life with these kinds of posts, because it's unbearable.
But I mean, but it's sort of utilising motherhood to sell herself again, isn't it? Going to the Beyonce concert is a way of selling herself again. And by the way, did you see the story about, talking of selling things, As Ever, you know, her lifestyle site that is currently flogging jam or pretend jam and edible flowers and honey and things like that, tea. Apparently, so you remember there was that first wave where people said, "Oh, I managed to get some," and then it immediately sold out. Well, that was now about a month ago or something, and apparently no more produce has been dispatched since that initial day. This doesn't sound good, does it?
Well, she told us that, I mean, there's no justification for it. You and I have had this discussion a million times, that with the Jamie Kern-Lima interview, Jamie makes a point to say, "Wow, you sold out. You sold out so quickly." And Meghan's like, "Yeah, 45 minutes. They were trying to tell a story. They were trying to change the narrative. That's everything we're doing. Meghan is so obsessed with correcting what she deems as false headlines, that while we say Prince Harry's stuck in the past when we watch that BBC interview, we should stress that Meghan is just as equally stuck in the past. She tries to change public perception, despite the fact that they have tax documents that say they work 1 hour a week for Archwell, the Archwell Foundation. She tells us, I work so hard. I work so hard.
Juggling it all.
Yes, along with a nanny. She works so hard, but she doesn't like that he called her a grifter at Spotify. She works so hard. She knows what a skew is. She's getting new items. She said in the Jamie Kern-Lima thing, I'm preparing new items for As Ever. She says she's personally editing season 2 of With Love, Meghan. She's personally editing her podcast. This is all a lie. She's not personally doing these things. She has people beneath her that, if you believe past reports, she treats horrifically. But this is all just about changing public perception and correcting the narrative. And, you know, a lot of the public's issue with Harry and Meghan, aside from seeing through the I have to not use foul language, seeing through the joke, seeing through the transparent PR stunts, is that they refuse to take any accountability whatsoever. And that's what I see right now. I mean, imagine if Prince Harry immediately apologized after the BBC interview for saying, I went too far when I said anything about my father's health. I apologize.
Yeah, that'll be the day. That'll be the day. But as I say, if it's true that As Ever had that initial burst of sales, as you said, that was thought to be, and I think it's accurate, a kind of sales technique where you restrict the amount of produce available, so then it sells out immediately. So you only have a small amount available, so it sells out immediately, and you create the image of frantic demand. We sold out in minutes. Yeah, that's like because you only had 20 items for sale. People do it deliberately. It's an old technique. If it is true that she sold out using that kind of restricted availability technique within minutes, and then has not sold anything since, has not put anything on the market since, then I would say, as ever, is in a world of trouble.
Yeah, just put a pre-sale, put pre-order, put a pre-order link up there. That's what everybody else does. That's what the Kardashians do. If you're really excited about a lip gloss that Kylie Jenner has, so excited that you didn't miss the first round, Kylie Jenner's team usually throws up a link so that you can secure the second round of lip gloss that's launched. It's I think it's all been, well, I felt like it was, the example we should give is the idea that Netflix Bites does not include Meghan Markle's merchandise.
The restaurant, the Netflix restaurant, yeah. That series with Love Meghan, I mean, it's basically tanked. We're going to get another one in September, but it didn't do very well. It just wasn't very watchable. Let's move on. Let's talk about the gruesome twosome's latest lamb to the slaughter. Prince Harry and Meghan Markle have hired Bill Gates's former assistant. Her name is Sarah Fosmo. She's 45. She has been effectively appointed Chief of Staff for Harry and Meghan at Montecito Towers. Apparently, as I say, she used to work for Bill Gates. She will now oversee what the Duchess and Duke of Sussex call a dynamic period of growth. A dynamic period of growth, particularly for the Duchess, as she continues to launch her lifestyle series and her As Ever product line and her useless podcast, Confessions of a Female Founder. I wonder how long Sarah Fosmo will last.
Look, it's exactly what Tina Brown said. Harry and Meghan have, in the past, had incredibly talented people that surrounded them, creative people. Some of the most creative in Hollywood worked for Archwell Productions and Archwell Audio. They no longer work there. The issue with Harry and Meghan is ultimately collaborating with these people and taking advice. Tina Brown said they just do not listen to their advisors. They will passionately agree with them and turn around and do the complete opposite of what is suggested, to the point where the advisors get so fed up that they no longer take their calls. I don't want to be your mentor anymore, some have said. They just check out because they get so frustrated with Harry and Meghan doing the opposite of what they've suggested. What advisor in their right mind tells Prince Harry to go on TV with the BBC, not only for 10 minutes, but allow him to verbally vomit for 30 minutes?
That's what he did.
Yeah, giving
verbally
people like
vomit,
all the more minutes and moments and facial expressions and sayings to dissect on television over and over again. I don't believe anybody said, yeah, let's do that. I think that was Prince Harry pushing that agenda. And certainly, I don't think that it's in Meghan Markle's best interest to encourage that while she's telling everyone she's in her honeymoon phase, she's the happiest she's ever been, while Prince Harry's debating how much longer his father has to live on live television. So I do think that they are in need of good counsel. But at the end of the day, they need a huge kick in the butt, ego-wise. They need to be humbled, and they need to actually listen to these people versus wasting the time of really talented individuals that have dealt with people far more successful than they ever have. I mean, the first example of that is Queen Camilla. From villain to queen. I mean, what mistress in your life has ever become queen.
Wow, yeah.
Her transition was absolutely amazing. I mean, I built an entire brand on Princess Diana, and I love Queen Camilla today. I think she's such a valuable asset to the British royal family. That was the first person Meghan Markle should have gone and sat down with and said, let me pick your brain. How do I turn this around? And instead, Harry called her the wicked stepmother in spare.
Yeah. I wonder if Sarah Fosmo will become the latest employee later to join the long list of former employees who've said that Meghan Markle is just a massive, great bully. I wonder how long Sarah will last. On past performance, not very long, but we watch that situation with interest. Also, this was strange, wasn't it? When Harry was over here recently, here in London, you know, losing that court case, he then went off in search of some friends of his, a couple of chinless wonders, you know, a couple of aristocrat types, who lived somewhere in an expensive area of London, and he hit the street. He knew the street they lived in, apparently, but he didn't know the number. So here's a man who's terrified for his own security, his own safety when he's in London, just going down this street, knocking on doors. Is this the right number? Is this where so-and-so live? And so on and so forth. And he's like caught on people's ring, pictures of him just knocking forlornly on all these doors. He never did find them because they now live in Switzerland and haven't lived there for some time. So he didn't even know where his close friends lived. Basically, as people have pointed out, this is a guy who just doesn't know how to do stuff. He doesn't keep, he's never had to keep a diary, he's never had to keep a contacts book. Everywhere he ever went, some royal chauffeur took him there. Suddenly he's got to do things on his own, like find where his friends live, have their address, that sort of nuance. He proves himself to be completely incapable of doing it. And while we're at it, those pictures that taken of him while he was banging on those doors on ring, it's this huge, massive burst boil thing or something on his nose. So what do you think's going on there?
Well, I'm happy to give Prince Harry skincare advice. It's my jam. I love skincare. He needs a little red light therapy. But I would say you have said a couple of times to me that Meghan Markle doesn't know how to human. You know, I'm like paraphrasing, but you said she almost is trying to act like a person, but she just doesn't quite know how to be a normal person, and it's weird to watch. That's how I feel Prince Harry is, because I never answer my door. I don't care who's knocking on my door. I don't answer my front door. I tell my Deliveroo drivers, leave it at the front, you know, just drop it off. I don't answer the door. I don't answer calls I don't know. For Prince Harry to think he can just show up at someone's house who he hasn't spoken to in years, long enough to know that, long enough to not know that they've packed up and moved
to another country.
Yeah, that is not normal.
By the way, I should say, Kinsey, that they were, his friend, it's somebody called John and Georgina Vaughan. He's in his mid-40s, comes from a long-established aristocratic family. And his wife, Georgina, is an artist. Both good friends of Harry, apparently, but not so good that he actually knows where they live. Apparently he was banging on all sorts of doors. I mean, two things about this. I mean, what a useless idiot. You know, you can't just turn up in a street. I don't think he knows that you have to know the actual number of the house your friends live in. But also, yeah, as I said, where's the safety and security in this? Just banging on doors willy-nilly. You know, where's the safety in that?
Ordering Deliveroo, leaving your kids at home with who knows who for the Beyonce concert. The actions rarely match what Harry says to whatever media microphone is in his face or whatever ghostwriter is writing his book for him. They can continue to contradict themselves constantly. And I think that there's just in the States, a real oversaturation with them, and people just are done. You know, I went back and rewatched the Worldwide Privacy Tour episode of the South Park series, and was overwhelmed by how much I felt like they predicted, in a way, the obnoxious, they joke that Meghan Markle is an influencer and an Instagram loving wife and all of these things. And we've seen so much of it so strongly come to fruition. Meghan said to Oprah Winfrey that people just deserve a right to privacy. Well, then stop telling me about every time you've visited, your OBGYN when a new podcast episode drops. Like, I don't need these details. I don't want these details. She needs to realize that what makes the royal family special, and what temporarily made her special, it's gone, it's long gone, was the mystery and was the magic of the royal family, the way that they serve others and they use their platform to elevate causes and initiatives and people that they see value in. Like Catherine, Catherine's Mother's Day message was about Mother Nature, and how if you stand outside and you explore, it can be healing to you mentally and physically. That's a pretty decent message. While Meghan Markle's like, I'm the best mom, So she doesn't know what the heck she's doing. She's just as lost as he is. Unfortunately, she goes.
Yeah, and so I don't know how much money they've got left. I mean, Harry's got a few dollars, I suppose, now that he lives in the States. Inherited a few million from his great-grandmother, the Queen Mother. Obviously, I believe he inherited about 35 million pounds from his mother, Princess Diana. Now, if that money has been properly looked after, I would have thought he might be in reasonable shape, but if as ever fails, it doesn't look good to me. Confessions of a Female Founder, her podcast series, is already a bona fide 24-carat catastrophe. It's a failure, dropped right out of the top 100 podcast charts. So that's failed. As ever, doesn't look to me like it's making any money. And with Love Meghan, that ship has sailed. Nobody really watched it much on Netflix. They won't watch the next series. So I guess my question to you is, the last question really, Kinsey, is, do you think they might struggle for money going forward if she doesn't manage to bring much in?
Well, I wonder if that's why her entire podcast has basically been promoting these brands that she's already invested in. Because it's just basically an hour of her, you being curious, going, well, I guess I'll try your mushroom coffee. If you are a Meghan Markle fan, you are that stupid, I assume. But I don't know. She talks a lot about how she has investments in many places. But like I said, when it comes to Prince Harry, what does he do? What does Better Up pay him to do? Invictus is really his shining star. Otherwise, African Parks Charity, that he hasn't come out to apologize for the report that said, yeah, people were tortured, there were rapes, that people have died because of the way that the Rangers have treated these people. He hasn't acknowledged that at all. What charity in their right mind is going to want to associate with this guy? Yeah. I just don't know.
He's toxic. She's toxic now. Who knows what tomorrow might bring, but I know what it's going to bring. I am joining you to record another excellent edition of your podcast. Recollections may vary. So I'll see you then, Kinsey, and you'll be back on this show on Thursday. Always a pleasure. Great to talk to you. See you tomorrow. Kinsey Schofield there, our royal commentator. Let's go straight to break. When we come back, your messages, your phone calls, and everything else. So stick around.
The Prime Minister has frequently said that growth involves a workforce, a highly trained workforce. What about those 9 million people who don't get up and go to work every day for lots of different reasons? Of course, some of them totally legitimate, sometimes less. So there are loads of questions that are in this, and we still don't have a lot of answers in terms of how this will work practically. No. Also, how does he make sure that it is kept away from the people that he used to be, the human rights lawyers, who will say, oh well, actually these people got to stay in the country anyway, even if you want to deport them?
Nigel realises he don't want career politicians in his party. He doesn't want these waste of time, people that have just got no career or no business mind behind. He wants real people that know what they're talking about in business, and obviously someone that can get behind them on apprenticeships. I mean, apprentices are the future, James.
What really is at the back of the minds of some of these lefty layabouts is if you do a job with your hands, then you are...
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Keir Starmer says, from now on, we're going to deport or potentially deport asylum seekers as soon as they commit any crime. Used to be there to go to jail. Quite why we just allowed them to break our laws, and as long as they didn't go to jail, it didn't make any difference. They could still claim asylum. I don't quite know. But now he says, no. They're going to get done even if they break the law and don't go to jail. Well, why don't we charge them with breaking into this country illegally? If we don't charge them with that, then no other measures make any sense. They're all meaningless. This is from Dorothy in East Kilbride. She says, hi Kev, I am flabbergasted with the lies coming out of this man's mouth. Quite frankly, I cringe when I hear him. Both the Conservatives and Labour have brought this country to its knees, and shame on them. No more. Reform all the way. Getting a lot of that these days. This is from Ernie. Starmer said he's going to deport asylum seekers if they break the law in this country. He won't, because he never charges them with anything. Well, he never charges them with breaking into the country. That's the point. Blimey, we've got a few WhatsApp voice notes. This is James on the migrants. We'll go to the phones in a second.
Good evening, Kevin. Now, Starmer needs to get a grip of this immigration. I've been saying it for the last 3 or 4 years now, and some people just laugh it off. But I'll tell you what, this is getting absolutely out of hand now. I mean, what the hell is this country going to look like in 10 years, Kevin? I'm sorry, but if most of these Labour MPs, hashtag be kind, why don't they put them up in their house? Absolutely disgraceful.
Well said, James, with you all the way. Let's go to the phones. Let's talk to the brilliant Georgina in London. Hi, Georgina.
Hi, Kevin. Good evening to you. Well, I wanted to ring and just talk about Meghan and Harry. The very fact that everyone says Meghan and Harry and not Harry and Meghan.
Yeah, we changed it round, haven't we? Changed the order of play.
Absolutely. Well, he's now an afterthought. I do feel very sorry for him. Absolutely. And the poor little thing's got a huge carbuncle on the end of his nose.
I saw that, yeah.
That's because he's run down.
Yeah, I said that. I said that to my wife. He's run down.
He is run down. You're right, Kevin. I mean, with the royal family, we've always had this mystique, this air of, there's something so special and ethereal.
Never complain, never explain, yeah.
Exactly. We don't know really what goes on or didn't behind closed doors. But what Harry and Meghan have done, I'm going to change it round now. Harry and Meghan, they've exploited and diluted every aspect of what was a mysterious, wonderful thing for the public, to the extent that the public have now lost all interest. They diluted it to such a point that people are now bored.
Yeah, you're so right. She's making the big mistake. When you do publicity, do it with restraint. Don't put too much out there. If you're in everyone's face every single day, everybody gets bored very soon. And you're so right, Georgina.
Always leave them wanting more. I mean, Meghan will go to the opening of an envelope. She is... I've never known anyone like her. She's available all the time. She keeps no secrets, even to the point of exploiting her babies. to forward her online grocery store.
Yeah, which I don't think is working at all. But that's another story. But you're so right. The royal family, part of the intrigue, is the mystique, and Meghan has destroyed all the mystique around Harry. There's no mystique around her, hence their downfall. Couldn't agree with you more. Georgina, got to go now, but always good to talk to you. Give me a ring tomorrow. Georgina in London. Before we go back to break, let's listen to one more WhatsApp voice note. This is Anna on the Migrants.
Evening, Kev. So I've just heard 700 immigrants, migrants, illegals rocked up on our shores today. So I'm supposed to get up at 5:30 in the morning, go and graft for 10 hours to pay for Ahmed and his buddies to recline in our local 4-star hotel, am I? I mean, Starmer thinks he can offset it with a few kind words. Well, let me tell you something. He lost the nation when he called us far right. Forget it.
Couldn't agree with you more, Anna. Excellent WhatsApp voice note. Let's go to break. More of your calls and WhatsApp voice notes when we come back.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's get a WhatsApp voice note. This is Carl again on Migrants.
Just been listening to Keir Starmer again, going on about if there's pressure on the housing situation that he will go further. Hang on a minute. Is this the same guy who's begging landlords to rent out their properties to migrants for the next 5 years, which obviously is going to mean an housing shortage? The guy is totally inept. He's saying one thing and doing something else. He just contradicts himself all the time. He can't be trusted. He flip-flops from one side to another. The sooner he's out, the better.
Totally right, Carl. Nothing to say about that except I agree. Dave, on policing.
Why did the retired constable let 6 officers into his house without an arrest warrant signed by a judge? I do not know. Now, if they come into my home, I have antique guns and swords, everything around my roof, and on my table at the moment I'm reading a book by Douglas Murray on democracies and death cults. Is that enough to arrest me and take me to cells? I don't know.
Okay, Dave, good one. I mean, I don't know. I mean, Julian Fawkes, I would have thought knew the business. I don't know. He's a law-abiding citizen. Copper knocks on his door. A law-abiding citizen's first response is, "Do you got a warrant?" No, he probably didn't realise exactly what lay ahead, which was a handcuffing, house searching, taken into the station, interrogated for no reason whatsoever, apart from the fact he put a tweet out there that was pro-Israel, and the police don't like that. Too many cops in this country are pro-Palestine. They think it's kind of illegal to be pro-Israel. They think it's illegal to be pro-Brexit. Hence their comments when they were searching through Julian's books. A lot of it's very Brexity. So what? So what? Ridiculous. Let's go back to the phones. Let's talk to Herbie in Harrow. Hi, Herbie.
Good evening, Kevin. Well, the man speaks with forked tongue, doesn't he?
Yes, he does. Yes, he does.
Got a clue. He's got diplomacy in being a liar. He's got diplomacy in not understanding what the people need and want. He's got diplomacy in everything other than what the nation requires to get it out of trouble and to keep us happy. No idea, no clue. And of all things I've learned this evening, Kevin, the man that helps to home these illegal immigrants, feed them, and everything else has become a billionaire. How can you become a billionaire looking after illegals? For God's sake, I'm going to quit and become an illegal operator, I think. I'll be far better off.
I'll tell you how you become a billionaire. This is Graham King, the Asylum King, as they call him. You get a government contract that pays you £4.8 million every single day, which is ridiculous. But the point about today is you know, if he wanted to get the support of the nation, he should have stood up and said, right, from now on, we're going to do it the Australian way. Every single migrant that turns up here without documents on an illegal boat, we will tell them you can't claim asylum because you've just broken our laws. You're a criminal. So, as a favour, we won't send you to jail. What we'll do is we will detain you for now, and then we'll put you on a plane and fly you back to your home country. And because we're such nice people, we'll even pay for the ticket. Once these migrants found out, or once they do find out, if we adopt this scheme, that as soon as they arrive in this country, they'll pretty soon end up on a plane back to their home country. They'll stop coming. Leave the ECHR. Stop the boats. All of these measures are not included in his ridiculous, toothless migrant crisis crackdown, which simply will not work. It's ridiculous. No cap on the numbers, no cap on migrant numbers, no deterrence, no leaving the ECHR, no plan to stop the votes, no point, no chance of it working. It's ridiculous. Herbie, I think you and I are on the same page on this. Got to move on, though. Always good to talk to you, though, mate. Thank you very much for calling. Herbie in Harrow. Let's get one more. We've got a lot of WhatsApp voice notes tonight. Here's Dave on police. Oh, no, we did Dave on policing, didn't we? This is the last one, actually. This is Ray on the Darlington nurses. You remember the brave nurse, Karen Danson, who spoke to us earlier. This is Ray on those nurses.
Hello, Kevin. All I'd like to say about this Darlington nurse episode is they should sue the hospital trust for as much money as they can get, and they deserve a lot. And the people in charge who stopped all this should be sacked on the spot without having their pensions. They should be got rid of as soon as possible.
Well, I agree with you, and they are suing the hospital. They're suing the NHS trust that runs Darlington Memorial Hospital, and I suspect after the Supreme Court's biological sex ruling a couple of weeks ago that they can't possibly fail, so they'll be in the money, but they deserve it if they do win. And also it'll teach Darlington Memorial Hospital and the rest of the NHS hopefully a lesson. You cannot ignore the Supreme Court's ruling about biological sex. Men are no longer allowed in women's only spaces. Got that? It's not rocket science. The Darlington nurses had my full support, and I think yours, Ray, and I think they're going to win. I don't see how they can lose. They certainly deserve to win. Let's go back to the phones and talk to a new caller, always like a new caller from Rugby, and her name is Laura. Welcome to the show, Laura.
Hi, Kev, thanks. I'm a bit nervous.
Don't worry.
But thank you. I'm ringing in response, obviously, to the trans thing and the nurses, the nurses that that were on earlier.
Yeah.
So I thought after the Supreme Court judgment, everything had been put to bed. But
oh,
then,
no, far from it, Laura, far from it.
No. Well, if you know, May is Women's Health Month, so we've had an email from our company, and it says on it, it's Women's Health Month, and they are highlighting the challenges in accessing healthcare faced by people with internal reproductive organs.
What?
That's what it says, yeah.
So this is from what, the NHS to you in Rugby, yeah?
No, I didn't say it was the NHS, and I'd rather not go. I mean, I can tell you separately, but I might get.
Well, is this not from the NHS then?
No,
but I mean, I know what you mean. It's part of the same sickness, isn't it? This refusal, this refusal to acknowledge that women are women. You know, and start calling them by new names. People who have cervixes, people who get pregnant, people who menstruate. I'll tell you what they're called. They're called women, females. Call them what they are.
Well, that's what I tried to say. So everybody was furious. We are part of the NHS. We work separately, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
But when I got it, I went back and I said, look, this is really offensive. I'm being reduced to the sum of my parts. And they came, they came back and they said, oh, well, sorry, we've looked at focus groups and this, that and the other, and we're sorry that you don't like the term we used.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm thinking, no, surely you should have just said women. But in the end, I just went back and said, OK, then I'll look forward to Men's Health Month when you refer to men as people with external reproductive organs.
I'll tell you, this is a new one on me because I've had people with cervixes, people who menstruate, people who get pregnant, and now we've got people with internal reproductive organs. Is that what it was? Unbelievable, unbelievable. Gee, Laura, well, listen, ridiculous. Fight it for all you're worth. Because this is an issue of sexism. This is sexism towards women, as if they don't matter, as if they're not worth being classified as human beings. They're females, they're women, that's what we call them. When someone is pregnant, they're a mother. They're a mother-to-be. The NHS producing whole leaflets about motherhood, never once using the words woman or mother. Ridiculous, ridiculous. It's got to stop, Laura. It's got to stop. But it's going to be a long fight, uphill battle. But I think we'll get there in the end, thanks to the Supreme Court. Laura, that's a great first call. Do call me again. Don't make it your last call. Great to talk to you. Laura in Rugby there with more of this nonsense about this weird refusal by the NHS and other organisations to call women what they are. Women or females or mothers. They're not people with cervixes, they're women. We've got to start paying them the respect of calling women what they are. If not, you're being a sexist. Seriously, the NHS is sexist about women. Why are they trying to rub women out? It's not right. 0344 499 1000. We'll go back to a break, and when we come back, a few more of your calls, a couple more of your messages, and then Petri Hoskin will be in the studio to tell you what she's got lined up for your entertainment from 10 p.m. until 1 a.m. So only about 10 minutes to go, but much still to come. Stick around.
Just in the past week, we've seen the first glimpses of what an independent trade policy will look like with India, with the United States. Those deals are not perfect, but they're a start. They're good, and they're good relative to what the EU has had. And lots of people say, you'll never get a deal with India, you'll never get a deal with America. Well, it's happened, and those are the two, I would say, big economies of the future. Whilst Europe, much like Britain, hasn't grown at all, because Europe, much like Britain, has put stupid rules on itself that has held back that kind of growth. Anything that ties us into those sorts of sclerotic, terrible rules will be a bad thing.
The Prime Minister has frequently said that growth involves a workforce, a highly trained workforce. What about those 9 million people who don't get up and go to work every day for lots of different reasons? Of course, some of them totally legitimate, sometimes less. So there are loads of questions that are in this, and we still don't have a lot of answers in terms of how this will work practically. No. Also, how does he make sure that it is kept away from the people that he used to be, the human rights lawyers, who will say, oh well, actually these people got to stay in the country anyway, even if you want to deport them.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Just a few minutes to go. A couple of messages and then we'll take a last call. This is from Rick in West Yorkshire. So now we could actually have illegal immigrants, dummy boats full of terrorists sent over by their own country, looking like all the other migrants. We can't tell the difference, so we welcome them in as usual. They get housed as these ones did, while all the time they are plotting to do us harm at our expense. No wonder they are all laughing at us. You got a good point there, Rick. They really are laughing at us, big suckers nation that we are. Hey Kev, this is from Smudge within Swindon. He said the first duty of the British government is to secure our borders and ensure the safety of the British people. No doubt some or all of those arrested, these Iranians that is, have arrived here illegally yet are allowed to plot and plan at taxpayers' expense. Someone must be able to take these lefty buffoons to the highest level in our courts if necessary. This is a dreadful government. Cracking show, sir. Thank you, Smudge. Right, let's quickly get a last call in, maybe one more. But first of all, James in Norwich. Hello, James.
Hello, Kevin. Just first of all, I'd like to say I'm an individual without a cervix, as far as I'm aware.
Me too. As far as I know, I can't get pregnant, and I don't menstruate. So I think by NHS standards, that makes us what's technically known, James, as blokes. But
well, I've never tried to get pregnant, so there you go. But I would just like to firstly say that I wish these people, so-called in charge, would actually say for what it is, that we are being invaded.
Oh, no, they object to that word. The language is so important. You mustn't use the word invasion. This is the Westminster body politic instructing us about the words that they think we're entitled to use. Never let anyone tell you what you can and cannot say, particularly if they're a 2-bit MP from Westminster. So yes, the invasion continues apace.
But these people who come in have no intention to assimilate or, have any love.
Many of them, not all of them, but yeah, you're right. I agree with that, yeah. This is half the problem. There are whole swathes of the country full of people who've come here to live, who've got no interest in actually living in this country in terms of adopting the culture or paying any interest in the culture. This is half the problem.
It's a ghettoisation of their own countries. So, it's worrying because it's like a tentacular cancer, which is not going to get any better. And I have no idea. It's been going on for so long. I don't have an answer as to how to fix it. I really don't. I wish I did.
Well, so nor does the Prime Minister, James, as he proved comprehensively in today's press conference. Him and Calamity Cooper, the Home Office Secretary, the Home Secretary, they're just tinkering around the edges, Oh, you've got to have a degree if you want to come here and be a carer. Great. Oh, we're going to have a visa crackdown. Yeah, great. Stop the boats, stop the migrants, do something about the ECHR, leave it. These are the concrete measures that we're looking for. He just comes out with all this waffle that, as I say, is pure tinkering around the edges, blatant headline hunting, nothing else to be achieved from today's farce, sham, to be honest with you.
I watched Mike Graham this morning at 8:30 when he showed the so-called Prime Minister making a speech, and it took all my might not to just turn it off because I just could not stand listening to him.
Yeah, well, better still, you didn't chuck a brick through the screen. That would have been understandable as well. James, I've got to move on. Really good call, though. Call me again. That's James in Norwich, and she's in the studio. It's Petri Hoskin. Hi.
Hello there. You're looking even more tanned.
Well, it was a sunny weekend. I went to the football, and the only thing to do at Craven Cottage was get a suntan.
That was it.
No